Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a day late version of WrestleZone Unfiltered, episode 27. We got our girl from Chicago is back with us again. She got a new schedule. Hey, Danny, how you doing?
Good. I'm actually in Chicago. So everybody pardon the light behind me. I'm at my sister's house. And for those of you old enough to know good movie history, good movies and good horror movies, don't go to the light, stay away from it, don't even look at it. Watch Poltergeist. That's your homework.
They're here.
They're here. Who's here? The TV people. And we're here minus Connor. Connor, we miss you.
He said he was coming on tonight, but that's all right. We've without Connor, without the boss to keep us straight, we still have Canada's greatest professional wrestler of all time.
Well, how can it be Canada's greatest wrestler? Because Ethan Page isn't even here. Oh, wait, Paul's here.
Yes, that's right. Paul is here, and you might not know this, but Paul is actually the one that trained Ethan Page. I wasn't supposed to let anybody know that, but
And that's the joke, is we only taught him the first page. And
Paul, how you doing, sir?
I have a boo-boo on my finger.
Oh, dear.
So all training has to stop because anytime I bang my finger, it's the worst.
Well, I'm a little upset. You sent that picture of yourself right before we were getting ready to come on in the mask, and we're not going to worry about what else you had on in the picture. But I was hoping for the same outfit tonight for our live audience, and no, you had to go and change.
It's like that was not me. That was
Famous last words. Well, Danny, I'm gonna start with you because apparently your boyfriend is
Which
injured
one?
again.
Are we talking Ricky Starks? Are we talking
No,
Ola?
we're not talking about the one that's actually on TV
Oh,
pretty frequently. We're talking about Wardlow. I've seen reports he is hurt again, and I don't know. I get your opinion. I know you've been waiting on him to come back a long time, and he shows up with Don Callis, and then he at the pay-per-view, then he's not with Don Callis on TV, then he's on TV for one time, and we ain't seen or heard anything about him since. And it popped up in my feed somewhere earlier today with a bunch of other bullshit that keeps popping up that he's injured again. So what have you heard?
So I actually heard something from a source that I cannot reveal for
A source is a source, of course.
what's the word I'm looking for liability purposes. I cannot disclose that information, but according to the reliable source that I got, he is not injured, and it looks like it's just more made up stuff from the company possibility, from what I gathered. And I actually went on Twitter a couple months ago when that other story of him being injured broke, and I called out Matt Taven on Twitter and I said, look, I know he's not injured. I know that your boss is telling you to say this to the media. How much is your boss paying you to lie for him? Because that also in their recent comments with him being injured, the person was just stating that there are a lot of stories about him being injured, which are typically taken with a grain of salt. And with the old injury story that he had going back to about 6 months ago, so that would have taken us actually no, take that back, last year. Sorry, my mind's totally blank right now. Going back to a year ago, around this time, there was no injury. There was just nothing for him creatively. That's why they were kind of saying he was injured. But I just find it interesting. If this is true, get well soon, big guy. Love you so much. If it's not true, then Tony Khan needs to figure out what he's going to do with this guy. Either use him as a bodyguard for Don Callis, use him properly, or send him over to NXT and be done with it, because this is ridiculous. It's getting to the point that Tony Khan doesn't know what to do with his talent. And I say that because look what he did to Ethan Page. Look what he did to Ricky Starks. If Tony Khan keeps this up, he's not going to have anybody in his company.
Well, my thing with it too is if he's actually injured, how? What the hell did you do?
Yeah.
I mean, you came back for a brief cup of coffee. You power bombed a couple of people at the pay-per-view, and that's all. I mean, unless I missed something, that's all I saw him do. And
yeah, that's really all I saw too. And I had heard that supposedly, and I'm trying to figure out, I have to go back and watch it, but according to what I heard from somebody else who alerted me to the story, is that he tore his bicep when he was coming out like to the ringside area, which I find that's kind of interesting. Then again, I'm the person who, when I was in a 2-year-old room, tripped over a chair, tripped over a shape rope, and came down hard on my knee.
Well, look what Adam Cole did coming to the ring during MJF. I mean,
look what Sami Zayn did on the way to the ring to John Cena's match, right?
What did I miss there? What did he do?
It was his like first call up from NXT, and I think it was in Montreal. And he's like, yeah.
That I knew. I thought you were talking about last week. I'm like, damn, I had SmackDown on. What did I miss?
Yeah, no, I did too. And I was like, wait. I mean, I've only been up since 5 o'clock
actually watched NXT.
Well, just while we're speaking of it, I told you I had SmackDown on because it's on live, and I'll just keep everybody updated. The women's title match just ended in a double count out because Jade speared Tiffany through the barricade, and then they got the count out, and then here come Refrigerator Jack, to beat up everybody and standing in the middle of the ring. All right, keeping it on AEW and the women. I don't know if you guys saw this on Twitter, but DDP called out Tony Khan, asking him why Britt Baker was not on TV, saying that she was in the best shape of her life.
Oh,
and why hadn't she?
Jason,
and why she hadn't been on TV in almost a year. And Tony Khan actually responded to him, from what I gather, and told him that Britt and everybody else knew that they had a rotating talent pool, and that's just how it works sometimes. And that when it was her turn to rotate back in, she'd be in there. And I was like, okay, you are full of shit is what you are. But that's my take on it. Paul, what do you think?
I mean, that could be the answer, because I feel like that would make sense if you're running a company. Let's give some people time off here and there. Is that the case? I don't know, because we have heard a lot of rumors about we don't have creative for you, or creative doesn't like them, or such and such and so and so. So it's hard to tell when they're injured or creative has nothing for them is just kind of code for like they're not well liked, or they're not the easiest to work with. You know what I mean? So who knows who's the problem in this chain of command here? But part of me starting to think if he's this injury prone, they kicked out Kenta for doing half of this. You know what I mean? So if he's this injury prone, it might not be for him at this level. And then the other part of me is like, is he like a big Dick Dudley where it's like, you look great, but you're useless in the ring? Because they got to be able to find some for you, right? Like if you have any skill. So who knows where in the chain of command the problem is, and if someone is the problem, or
going back, with that, I've said it 1,000 times on here when we, Danny and I are talking about Wardlow. He's got a great look, and I just think I think he screwed him from the get-go as soon as he got him away from Max. And the reason I say that, I have no issue with him squashing MJF the way he did. It was a storyline. It was a great storyline. They built it up for him to leave MJF. But then, you had put MJF over as, if not the best, but definitely one of the best in your company at that time. And you let Wardlow go squishing. Again, no issue with it. None. But when you do that, that's when you put the rocket ship on him and send him to the moon. Mm-hmm. Not squander him with people wondering where'd he go. And then like the whole thing with Samoa Joe cutting his hair. There was never, I didn't care about Samoa Joe cutting his hair, but there was no retribution.
That happened.
Yeah. When he was feuding with Samoa Joe over the TNT title.
I either completely forgot or
that he's, well, I mean, it's kind of forgettable, to be honest with you. Like I said, Joe didn't like shave him bald. He just grabbed some scissors and snipped the ponytail off. And, when you saw Wardlow again, he'd got his hair nice and tight, so, and now he's got the ponytail back because that's how long he's been out, long enough to grow that back. But, then there was no comeuppance. There was no payoff. There was just, he got left laying flat. again. And so again, I had no issue with the MJF squash, except for what kind of the old
Here.
thing.
I heard something you might like. I heard this from Kevin Sullivan. They said this about him. They said the way Kevin Sullivan booked is he doesn't book a match. He books the match and then the comeback. So we're not just doing one match. We're going to do 2 stories and we're going to build it. Wardlow feels like they wrote the match and then didn't have anything after. Like they have this beautiful story of him finally turning on Max, becoming his own man, and blah blah blah. Then they're like, "All right, what's chapter 2?" And they're like, "Ooh, chapter. How do you fumble this?"
That's the thing that a lot of people were. It was so argued that Hulk Hogan would never lay down for anybody, and that's been rebutted by quite a few people. That
hey, he lost to the Genius once. Okay.
Well, see, they all tell the same. They all tell the same story. They say Hogan had no issue laying down for anybody. I mean, for God's sake, he did put over Billy Kidman in WCW. But they said if you told Hogan that he was going to lay down, it didn't matter. Pick a name, doesn't matter. His response was, "Okay, then what?" And if you could not answer, then what? That's when that doesn't work for me, brother, would come in. And that's one of the things that people didn't understand at the time, but credit now look back and credit Vince McMahon for in their 80s and 90s heyday was when WrestleMania was over. Vince already knew what he wanted for the main event of WrestleMania the following year, and then he would book backwards, to get there the way he wanted to get there. He knew where he was going a year in advance. And and Tony Khan
I would say most wrestling companies do that. Like we know what our season finale is going to be, and we got to get there.
Well, Tony Khan has said several times that he books week to week, and that's why your show sucks.
And I think TNA had a bit of that as well.
Told Brian Alvarez that, and I came up with the fact that it's almost like he puts names in a hat and like, oh, you know what? You wrestled last week. Oh, wait, we're going to let him wrestle. And then he's got like this big dry erase board. Think of like something that you might find on like Law and Order SVU or Chicago PD, especially. And, that you've got like, the people that wrestled this week or the people that wrestled this week or last week or the following week. It's almost like he just books how he feels like booking at the moment. And it's like what I like to call in business, there's a Band-Aid fix. He's a Band-Aid booker. He books just enough, and then that's it. And then getting back to Jason, what you said about Wardlow, what I found intriguing about Wardlow is that he was just there in the background and he didn't say a word. He said like nothing about anything, and then all of a sudden we started seeing the seeds of a face turn. Okay, so when MJF had his match with Punk, out comes Wardlow, hands Punk the ring, Punk beats Max. Okay, done. Wardlow delivers a promo about how his mom was a single mom. She raised 3 kids. She sacrificed for him to be a pro wrestler. Okay, cool. We get the TNT title thing. And then he just goes into obscurity and he's gone. And then he's back and he's gone again. And it's almost like Tony Khan, I hate to say it, but he listens to the backyard baby buffoon Carnival at Clown Show Bucks. Who are, oh, book him. Well, we like him, or book him. Well, oh, we don't like him, so you should book him, but book him this way. That's what I think's going on. And I think, too, if you're a Cody guy, you're treated badly. You're a Punk guy, you're treated badly.
Well, I'll throw a couple of things here on that in just a second. I'm sitting here watching SmackDown, and they're getting you ready for the Brock Cena match next Saturday on WrestlePalooza. They're showing throwback to training sessions of them in OVW. I mean, they both look like babies. Like this back in 2000. Wow. And I just want to be clear on something when, I said, this is why your show sucks. You can see some good entertaining wrestling matches or whatever on the show. So don't get me wrong, but there's no investment. I've said this before as an old school fan. And Paul, I think we've talked about this, maybe not, I'm not sure, but it's like I don't mind the stuff that AEW does, but when they do it, 9 times out of 10, they don't have a reason for it. you've put two guys together, or even two girls, it doesn't matter, take your pick, that they send out there in a match, and they're in a cage, or they're trying to put somebody through three tables, or they're trying to stomp their neck with a chair. Just pick something. And it's like, it was just a thrown together match. Why are you so mad at this person? Why is that much rage in you? That's what I look for. I mean, if you go back and you watch old school wrestling, I'm not talking about, when I say old school, I'm going back to, NWA,
Hackenschmidt,
the Mid-Atlantic stuff, the way stuff, every Saturday night or Saturday morning, the way those shows would go off, you'd have people brawling, that had a story. There was a reason they were brawling. And then you'd have David Crockett or Tony Schiavone or Gordon Soley going, "Oh my God, fans, we've run out of time. We'll show you what happened next week." And it gives you a reason to tune in next week. It's, Danny and I talked about this with Connor in depth about the old cliffhanger on Dallas, when Dallas was so popular. And, every Friday night when Dallas was on, everybody, you got 15-year-olds today that know what "who shot JR" means. There's a reason for that. And
absolutely.
So like I said, now last week or this week, whatever, on Dynamite, it ended with Danny Garcia turning heel. So we got something to tune in tomorrow night or Wednesday, whenever they follow up with that. Or knowing Tony Khan, the way he's done things, hell, it might be 2 weeks before something's said about it. You just don't know if you're going to get a follow up on a story when something happens. And that's my problem with the TV show. He doesn't know how to structure a TV show. Now, he can go out there and spend his money. He can bring in the highest of, somebody that the fans want to see wrestle. They're glad they're out there. But then what? I don't know, Paul. That's just my opinion.
No, I agree with you and I'm sitting, as you're mentioning this, I'm just sitting back getting, remembering when I was watching NWA Saturday nights, 5:05 Eastern, 6:05 Central on TBS. And it was must-see TV. So then you had Flair come on, and Flair was cutting one of his entertaining promos. And then you had the Horsemen, and then you had 30-second squash match where the ring was so loud when they hit the ring, you felt like you heard the sound of the ring move and could see it move. And you're in a TV studio in Atlanta, and where the clouds blacked out. And it was just so fun because when they were in those promos, it was like you believed that's who Flair was. You believed that Flair was the guy in the bar buying a round of drinks for everybody, because he was so great at that character. And of course, then you have to watch Starrcade. Then you have to watch Clash of the Champions. Then you have to watch this. That's what wrestling was back in the day. But Tony Khan, it's like, oh, okay, we're going to put you on the whiteboard, draw a name out of a hat, you have a match. Story about Wardlow that I had heard, that he had driven 5 hours to a Dynamite taping. It was Dynamite or Collision. Drove 5 hours, got there, sat around for at least an hour, and then was told to go home.
I would be curious with the stuff they're doing with Ricochet, the Gates of Agony, and the Hurt Business, Hurt Syndicate, excuse me. I know that, it was reported that MVP was very loud in the back about they were not going to lose the titles to an FTR, to the Young Bucks. If and when they were to lose the titles, they wanted to put somebody over. They wanted to make somebody. And that's what you do, that you got to elevate the next crop. That's where WCW failed and the WWF was able to take back over, because instead of Vince crying over, Hogan leaving or Hall leaving or Nash leaving and all the subsequent people that went over there, and you had 52 members of the NWO, Vince, it was next man up. They made The Rock, they made Austin, you still had, Triple H and Shawn Michaels there to bridge that gap. You had Bret Hart for a while. You had the Hart Foundation, which, I like DX. DX was funny, but as far as a wrestling faction goes with WWF, the Hart Foundation was my favorite. I've said, Bret Hart was great in the ring. And Paul said it best last week. Bret Hart, he wasn't great on the microphone, but man, when he was pissed off, you could get some good promos out of Bret Hart.
Oh, you really did. He
But
was
they
like
they were so few and far between. It was like you had to stick your finger in his ass on the way out to, on his way out to the ring or something to fire him up. But I enjoyed the Hart Foundation between, the wrestling ability of Owen and Bret. You had, Brian Pillman in there, and Neidhart just kind of kicking around doing a whole lot of nothing. And then Davey Boy and Owen made a good tag team. I mean, so I thoroughly enjoyed that. But again, it goes back to yes, they rehashed Jim Neidhart and they rehashed Davey Boy, but they were elevating Owen, pushing Bret to a different level, and Pillman, who was not what he was in WCW anymore due to the accident, but he could still talk. And he was still very efficient in the ring. He just wasn't flying Brian anymore. But like so they didn't cry over stuff of people left. Next man up, and WCW just kept spending money, and the only person that got elevated in WCW or made was Goldberg, and we see how that turned out. So and like I said, to go back to it, I'd be curious with this new storyline. It's not a new, but kind of going back with the history with Ricochet and the Hurt Business all the way back to their time in WWE. Was it Tony Khan that came up with all right, we're going to get the Gates of Agony to interfere in the tag team match, so they're not pinned, but they lose the titles because of the triple threat? Or was it just MVP have enough going, you know what, we have history with this guy, let's do this with him? I'd be curious whose idea it was, because I just haven't. And I've said it 100 times, man. I'm thankful for Tony Khan opening up AEW. WWF's product when they bought WCW, in my opinion, did a very quick, because they didn't have anybody to compete with, and it got very stale and very boring. And love, hate, or just casually watch AEW, being on TV made them kind of, all right, now that's real competition. They got money. They can take big names from us. All right, it's time to start cooking things back up. And some of them, if you look back, that's when you started getting, Paul Heyman and put with Roman Reigns, and then the bloodline slowly materialized, and that whole storyline, and just so much more that you got. And I don't know if anybody else has seen it, and if you heard it, but I saw something today where Paramount is discussing merging or buying Warner Brothers Discovery. And if that happens, I wonder what that would mean for AEW, because Paramount just signed that massive UFC deal to put UFC's pay-per-views for free on Paramount. So I would be interested to see what if and there's been so many mergers. I mean, Paramount just merged with Skylink or Sky something, whatever it was. So, a lot of these people that are losing money, they're starting to join forces. So, do I know if it's true or not? I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me. Paul, have you heard anything on that?
No, I don't know anything about these.
I haven't either.
Cable company, whatever services.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, it's throwing stuff out there. I don't know how ironclad certain, TV contracts are. I'm sure there's probably some kind of guarantee in there. This pay-per-view coming up for AEW is going to be the first one on HBO Max, and for everybody getting excited, going, they're finally in an app for free. No, they're not. They're still going to cost you. Yeah, they're still. Well, I mean, they're not going to cost you $50. They're going to cost you $40, because they're taking the 10 off that you already pay for HBO Max. Thanks, Tone. I appreciate you, Bubba. Thank you.
How is it? Why all of a sudden is it really hard to watch American professional wrestling? Do they not want us to watch? Is that what's happening? Because I feel like if you go about it the right ways, I hear it's a bit frustrating to do it the legal way now, because it's on different companies, and you have to know which company to buy to know which show that you're getting. And I heard it's something like, to watch all the WWE content in a year, it's going to cost about $1,200 a year.
I don't see how that doesn't make any
sense. Is there?
I could be wrong. I can find the graphic to share.
Well,
I mean, it's not $9.99 anymore.
Well, I mean, USA is not on a streaming platform other than like if you got live TV with YouTube TV, Hulu, cable. USA does not have a standalone app that you can subscribe to.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
So you have to have some type of live TV option for USA. You got Peacock, which is still going to have the NXT premium live events. I'm assuming there's going to be some content like on Peacock. I know there's episodes of SmackDown, but they're like 2 months old. Like they're a month and a half, 2 months back. And of course, there's Netflix, which is depending on what you get, you can pay as little as $7.99 a month for it, or up to $24.99 a month. It just depends on if you really hate ads or not. They don't bother me, and I have Netflix and Peacock through Xfinity with my internet, so I don't really look at it as paying for it anyway. So let's see, what else? So yeah, the ESPN app, I think they said it's going to be $30. And that's why I said they should have waited one more pay-per-view, because you could have probably got more subscribers to that app for Survivor Series than you're going to get for pay-per-view X that we.
So now,
gotcha. Yeah, save it for a Big Four show. Yeah.
So the pay-per-views aren't going to be on Peacock anymore.
No, well, the NXT ones will. The whatever that last pay-per-view was that they had. Well, I guess it was SummerSlam. Maybe not. Whatever the last pay-per-view was Michael Cole actually signed off, thanking Peacock, and he named off a bunch of people and about how they'd enjoyed their time there. But that's why they're doing WrestlePalooza for free on ESPN next Saturday, is to kick it off, and you're getting the first one for free.
But then, are you still going to be able to watch old like WWE, WCW content on Peacock?
I'm not sure if they're going to move that to Peacock or they're going to move it to Netflix. I'm assuming it's probably still going to be on Peacock. I'd have to look it up, because the reason I say that is because that they did say the NXT pay-per-view, premium live events, whatever, are still going to be on Peacock. So there's still some kind of an agreement there, I guess, but I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into the old content. I'll be honest with you. There's a couple of things that I watched on Peacock, but when they transitioned it off the WWE Network, when they sold the rights to Peacock or did the agreement with Peacock, there was a lot of stuff that didn't get added to Peacock that I personally enjoyed, and the controls were a lot different. You didn't have as much freedom with controls in Peacock.
I hear the Peacock app was not great at searching for stuff.
Not at all.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a.
Someone went and typed in Parks and Rec, and it didn't pop up.
Yeah, so yeah, like I said, it was frustrating. I thought whoever designed the WWE Network, I thought did a phenomenal job with it. There was so much stuff to find.
I remember using it long time ago when it first came out, and even I have to agree, it was fantastic. You just click ECW, go down. What year do you want? Oh, I want to watch. Was it Barely Legal? Click. There you go. Okay, which one do you want? Then that's perfect.
Yeah. Then I don't know. I think I told you this last week. I heard that Adam Copeland's contract, Edge, whatever you want to call him, is up September 25th. Now, I don't know how true that is. That's just what the rumor is. So if that's true, then we kind of know what we're going to get at the pay-per-view, that FTR will put him out some way, somehow, this coming Saturday. I don't even know what all we're getting. I'm trying to think of, I know we're getting Cena and Brock, and I know we're getting
the Rollins versus the Punks.
Yeah, and then you're getting the Usos versus Braun. But I can't. I know there's some type. Mercedes has some type of match. Tony's defending against somebody, and during the day, Adam Page is taking on. Oh hell, they set it up last week. Kyle Fletcher.
Yeah.
And then you got, of course, Max versus Mark Briscoe with their ongoing feud. So I mean, I will give WWE this and I'm sure it was done intentionally. We've talked about the counter programming, but I'm not talking about the time frame that it's coming on. This first show on ESPN, and this is take AEW out of the equation. I mean, it's like pretend there was no wrestling on at all that Saturday besides this show. They have stacked this show for the first premium live event, free event, whatever the hell you want to call it, on ESPN. The damn thing is stacked. Yes,
So, yeah,
no, maybe.
Give them one good big card that they'll love, and then just never give it again.
Well, no, I mean, I agree with you. It's like there's a lot of times I don't mind women's wrestling. I don't. There's a lot of good matches, and there's a lot of women in the sport today that are better athletes and over half the men that are there. But at the last pay-per-view the Clash in Paris, that was the last one. I told you last week when after whatever match it was, and they had Nikki Bella coming out against Becky Lynch. I mean, Becky Lynch is phenomenal in the ring. She does great promos. I mean, she's interesting. You give her something, she can normally make something out of it. I have no interest in seeing Nikki Bella. None. So I left. I went to the store and I got back, and there was one of the ads that was on, and I looked at her and I said, anything else come on after that match? She said, no, that it just ended. I'm like, damn, I timed that perfectly. I have no interest in seeing Nikki Bella.
Needy Nikki.
Yes.
I'm in the WWE because I need to be relevant again and find somebody who's got money because I don't have any of my own. Now that Cena's married.
I was talking to him about this last week. Did you see Cena's wife at the did you watch Clash in Paris?
Yeah, she's adorable.
Yeah, she looked a lot like Nikki Bella.
She does.
It's like, is that a cousin or something, man? What'd you do there? All right, Danny, what do you got? You went into it, so let's talk about AJ Lee. The Chicago girl, the Chicago guy going against Mr. and Mrs. and Mr. Becky Lynch on Saturday. What do you think? What do you think about the return of AJ Lee?
She's just she was older. At first it was weird to hear her talk again now that she's older, but once she cut that, because she opened Raw, obviously Milwaukee, she started off a little slow, but she definitely picked up her pace. But then when Rollins came out and she just stood in front of him, I was just like, my God, she is just like so stinking adorable. Her and Punk are perfect together as a real life couple, and they suit each other. And just the whole segment, I was at the edge of my couch for that. It was so great.
Well, yeah, if you didn't watch it, I would suggest going back and watching it because, I had forgotten how good she really is. And that's not saying in the ring. That's, her and Punk have a lot in common, when it comes to mic skills. And, I think she started off slow. I think that was not her losing her spot. I think that was intentional. And then when Becky came out, it got even better. And when my favorite part of it, when Becky said something like, give me my belt back, give me my title. And she looked down, oh, I forgot I was even wearing it. I've been wearing it since whatever. And then she goes, and then I slept in it, and I don't sleep in anything. And then I got up the next morning, I touched it, and it just got a little weird. And before she could get weird out, Becky's like, stop. I had to burn my scald my hands because I touched your greasy husband. I thought the whole
I have to bleach my skin. But Becky, fun fact about Becky, she went to Columbia College here in Chicago. I think it was, or was it New York? One of the two. And she studied theater and minored in something. And you can just tell just her promos are just fire. Like, she was born to do this because there is such a strong component, obviously, of acting in pro wrestling. But Becky is like fire with her promos.
Well, I saw a story the other day, every time I talk to old Steve, Meaty, whatever, he wants to constantly bring up the real life heat between Seth Rollins and CM Punk. And I know there was some bad blood at first because, when he first got back that they had to clear the air on, but it goes back to the Click talking about how much they enjoyed working with each other, when it was Shawn, Razor, Diesel, and Hunter, feuding with one another and this, that, and the other, how much fun they had working with their buddies. And they said people have called it quite the new bromance in the back that, once they got past that initial, you didn't call me for 10 years, blah, 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 that they have gotten really close once again back there and went as far as to where the four of them have had dinner and talk a lot. And then that kind of made a lot of sense because they have such good chemistry in the ring and, on their promos. So, that reading that story was kind of like, oh, how sweet. The bromance is back. Paul, you're laughing. I know you got a bromance in that locker room somewhere, man. Who's your bromance with?
Bromance. Oh, I don't know. In which locker room?
Whichever one you're in, man. Pick one.
I don't know. I kind of like Wheeler Yuta. He's so handsome.
Oh, God almighty.
He's a nerd.
He looks
He's
like
the nerd that's in the math club.
He looks like a mop.
He really does. My question is, how can he see? Number one. Number two, I'm surprised that he hasn't fallen faster than the Shockmaster did. Paul, look that one up. You're too young to know who he is. Jason knows who that is. And
Uncle Fred.
I
Uncle
mean,
Fred.
Since when did nerds wrestle?
Well, on a serious note with Wheeler and Paul, throw it in here. That experiment has failed miserably. We've seen that. God bless them for trying to elevate him. So let me start there. They did try to elevate him with the whole Blackpool Combat Club and the Death Riders. And no matter how much they've tried, no matter who he's beat, even when he was fighting Moxley back before the Blackpool Combat Club, the way he made his way in there, not laying down for Moxley, kicking out of the finishes. I mean, they've tried. I'll give them that. They have tried with Wheeler. But now with Danny Garcia coming over, what does that mean for Wheeler? Because it looks like that Danny will take that young boy place that we've talked about before, and that's going to leave old Useless over to the side.
Okay, so I think the problem is how the faction is sort of brought over, because I saw a similar thing happening in Japan where it was like young guy put in a heel faction, and they're like sneaky heels that always cheat to win. So how do you get them over? Well, they let Ren Narita have character. They let him have agency. I feel like with Wheeler Yuta, there is no agency. There is no character. There's no fun in this human being right now. Like when you look over and you see the House of Torture and Ren Narita, they're silly. You know what I mean? You can go, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, but I feel like with Yuta, they talk down to him. Like they don't, you know what I mean? They don't view him as equal in the group. And that tells us everything we need to know.
Well, that, and also is like, I don't know. Will Pac still be with the group when he comes back? When he comes back, is he still going to be with them?
I forgot about that guy.
It's kind of like I'd forgotten about him too until they did the promo in the back when Hook confronted the ops about replacing him before his body got cold, and so I was like, oh yeah. Speaking of replacement, because it was funny because Moxley was world champion at the time when he got hurt. And so, Moxley had to fill in for the Trios Championship. And that's the match they lost. They lost that match right after Pac got hurt. And so, I don't even know his real name. I know he was Aaron Neville in WWE and NXT.
I think he's got a very British name.
Yeah, but ever since he left WWE, my God, it's been one injury after the other. I mean, he cannot stay healthy. And I love watching him in the ring.
Well, and then I was watching NXT, and then who shows up but Tyler Breeze?
Oh yeah, Prince Pretty is back. Apparently, I didn't know he was in the back. When I was reading on that, they said that they're doing this whole NXT homecoming thing, and apparently he works in the backstage area. I did not know that. I didn't realize the time.
Yeah, I looked up. I'm like, that guy. I'm like, I know who that is.
I feel like it's been like 10 years since he was there, right? Like the black and gold days.
At least.
It's been a while. But the main event right now on SmackDown with 10 minutes left to go is Drew and Orton. And right now, Drew has got Orton in a figure 4, if anybody's interested.
And I was disappointed that I hadn't seen my friend Jacob on SmackDown last week. That was depressing.
He hadn't been on there this week either. So, it looks like everybody's on vacation. People were speculating that Wade Barrett got suspended because, or was being punished because of his comments about good old Nikki Bella, but that was not the case. It might have been Pat McAfee talking about it today, but how, just how good Triple H is to his people and giving them time off. Wade apparently needed 2 weeks off to deal with something personal. Tessitore was back on Monday Night Raw with Corey Graves this past Monday. And then tonight on SmackDown, you got Vic Joseph and Booker T. I mean, so, he's giving people time off, which you never would have seen, years ago. That just wouldn't have been a thing.
I still think they should play it off like real sports have injuries where they'll say like the third baseman rolled his ankle in training and he'll miss out 2 weeks. If you said something like that, oh, this wrestler pulled something and they're going to be out until the pay-per-view, I'd go, okay, that makes sense to me. And that would explain where some people are. You just say, no, in kayfabe, they rolled their ankle. In kayfabe, they got something in their eye. You just say weird sports injuries that people get all the time.
Well, I mean, we've talked about it before. The good thing about it is, and I think this is where, I know AEW's built some stars or, homegrown stars, but they're still not as main event heavy as WWE is. And they weren't like this in past years either, but they've built up so many people that, if Randy Orton's off TV for 6 months, 2 weeks into it, not that you forgot who Randy Orton is, but it's not making that big of an impact to you that he's not on TV. Right. Same with the Drew McIntyre, same with the Seth, CM Punk. They're so flipping top heavy. It's like, even Roman. I mean, everybody loves when Roman comes back now, but when he's gone, the shows are not missing a beat. Now, is it better with him on there? In my opinion, yes. I mean, I hated Roman Reigns at first. I thought they were just the continuing shoving him down your throat, and then the whole Cena promo of, when he got tongue-tied and lost his place against Cena, and Cena's like, it's a promo, kid. You have to learn how to do it. This is exactly why I can't leave. You can't take my spot. You're not able. And, and I despised Roman Reigns. And I don't know if it was, him or the company, a combination of both, that finally realized, he might be the nicest guy in the world, but he comes off as a smug prick. And,
So this is an observation I feel like changes between the genders. I feel like a lot of women are like, he's very handsome. He's very good looking, which I'm not saying he's not, but a lot of men see Roman Reigns and go, what an asshole. Like just the look.
I agree.
The beard and the hair and the mug. Just this guy's going to say something about your mother. That, you know what I mean? Like it just.
One of the videos I saw online a couple of years back, it might have been longer, but Roman was in his whole tribal chief. It was already out there, and he's full blown, I'm the greatest, whatever. And there was a video somebody had taken, and basically teasing him about being Jason Momoa, asking him, said something about him being an Aquaman. He turned around and goes, "If I'd have been in the movie, it'd have made twice as much damn money as it did," And
I remember that.
And there's a video out there of somebody, yelling at Shawn Michaels when he was a full-time in-ring competitor about his height. And he's like, that's all right. When I stand on my bank account, I'm 10 foot tall. And I'm like, God, I love these guys. But, talking about the smug arrogance, it's like we talked about with Charlotte Flair. This run with Alexa Bliss has been funny to watch because the whole, don't say the F word, don't say friends, don't say, it's been funny. But every time before that, they've tried to let Charlotte be a babyface. She's a bitch. She comes across as a bitch.
It's almost like you are trying to force somebody into a role that is not for them. Take, for example, oh my God, who can we think of? Michael, I think, oh God, what is his name? Shoot, he was the detective in Power. He's Detective Cower. Michael Ealy, I think that's his name. Great actor. He has played nothing but bad guys, and that is just his MO. James Spader's another one. Look at James Spader, the Pretty in Pink, when he played Steph in Pretty in Pink. He just has that quality to play the bad guy. Sure another one who, oh God, plays a scream. Jamie Lee Curtis. She's another one. Original Halloween. That was the one that put her on the map. She was in Trading Places. Okay. But she became known as the Scream Queen, and it suits her. But yet, with Charlotte Flair, you can take her, try to make her a baby face, but she's just got that natural heel energy, just like Rick did back in the day. Imagine him being a face, we loved him so much. We cheered him.
Well, the one thing I'll give Rick, yes, he was a much better heel, but he could pull off the babyface a whole lot better than Charlotte.
He really could.
I mean, at least a couple of times, and the one big difference you could always tell, Flair babyface versus Flair heel, was when he was a babyface, he would actually be able to hit that double axe handle off the top rope versus being caught and thrown off the top rope when he was a heel.
But I think there is also a key difference between the Flairs is their size, because Rick was, for the most part, smaller than his opponent. So when he was the babyface and they put him against the heel's massive, the imagery works. Yeah. Here's this skinny Ric Flair who's trying to fight this big, muscly man. That works. It works even better when he's a heel, because now he's like, oh, you're not even fighting. Like with Charlotte, it's like, you're taller than most of the roster.
She is. What is she? She's got to be
bigger than most of the roster.
She's got to be 6 foot, I think. Is she?
There's no way that you're the protective baby face. You know what I mean? No, yeah. No. You're bigger than everyone. No way.
Well, like I said, this stuff she's been doing with Little Miss Bliss has been pretty comical. So it's been good to see a different side of her, and not the. I'm the best. I'm entitled to yet another world title shot. I mean, it's been nice to see. But you talk about that. I mean, MJF to me is in the same category. Mm-hmm. You can't have. I mean, that there's with society is what it is today. There's going to be people that like MJF. There's going to be people that like me. Something will come out of his mouth where everybody's like, "Oh my God, you hear what he said?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was laughing my ass off. I thought it was hysterical." That's just my personality. But the way, he comes across as so condescending and so demeaning. He's not a babyface. You go back in the 80s, neither was Tully Blanchard. You could not make Tully Blanchard a babyface.
You couldn't. You couldn't do him a babyface. Oh, God. Who else did not play a good babyface? Rick Martel. That was another one. When he became the model, Rick Martel, after, I think it was the whole Strike Force thing.
Well, you'd have to go back and watch Rick Martel in the AWA and before he came into WWE, because he was a former AWA world champion, believe it or not. And he was the white meat Ricky Steamboat of the AWA. Mm-hmm. I mean, the smiling, the clapping, and I
remember that.
I mean, I was glad to see a different side of him when he became the model. It's like, damn, who knew he had it in him? Barry Windham, when he joined the Horsemen, same way. Barry Windham had always been that white meat, hot baby face, and he turned out to be an excellent heel.
Another one who, and we are in the throes of we're Nitro 1997. So this was right after Kurt Hennig joined WCW, and it was right after, Jason, if you remember, I'm my spot, I'm going to give you my spot with the Horsemen, and it was when Hennig ended up joining the NWO and Ric Flair disbanded the Horsemen. I think we're on that part. And Kurt Hennig was another one who was a natural heel. You could not give him a face role. He played a better heel than he did a face.
He did, but when I first got my glimpse of Kurt Hennig as a heel, he had been the white meat baby face in the AWA. Son of Larry the Axe, who was a heel most of his career. But Kurt, you never saw the heel turn coming. He was friends with Greg Gagne, and Greg Gagne was always the baby face. Mm-hmm. And then they had, he was chasing Nick Bockwinkel for the title. And, he never could get over the hump, and was, and it goes back to how people are fickle. The fans are, I should say, good. Bockwinkel was their version of Flair. He cheated to win, keep the title.
Oh God, Bockwinkel was amazing.
And the way Kurt Hennig beat him was with a roll of quarters. And the crowd, he started taking shortcuts toward the end of the match. And it was like the Bret Austin double turn. People started booing Kurt and cheering Bockwinkel. Kind of 50-50 crowd with it. And then Kurt, pulled the roll of quarters out of his tights and hit Bockwinkel, and finally got the 1-2-3 in the AWA world title. And for somebody that was getting cheered, he was getting booed out of the building by the end of the match when he got the title. And yes, he made an excellent heel, and I agree he was a better heel than he was babyface. But when Kurt Hennig, my first experience with Kurt Hennig, I would have never thought it.
Yeah. Another one who, Good heel tag team. Oh, let's see.
Oh, I got
Oh,
an easy one that could never be a babyface.
yeah. Let me think
Stevie
on that.
Ray. Never could be a
Oh, God.
babyface.
Yeah, that's another one that where it's like quote the Raven Nevermore in Stevie Ray's popping up. He was like the annoying kid who tried to
No,
follow.
not Stevie Richards. He's talking about Stevie Ray, Booker T's brother.
Oh,
Harlem.
sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I've been up since 5 o'clock. Sorry.
I thought
I
your
know he
schedule
was in a
changed.
babyface tag team, but like
Yeah.
him on his own, no way you're making that a babyface.
Yeah. No.
Speaking of bad things in wrestling, does they started off as the Ebony Experience in Global, which was what took over World Class USWA. Does anybody remember how they debuted in WCW?
Oh God, here we go.
No.
Okay, I'm trying to remember the character's name, but it was a down south dandy. He fought with Medusa. He talked like
It was Colonel Parker. It was
out
Robert.
loud.
Colonel Robert.
It was Colonel
Okay,
Parker
sorry.
who had wrestled a long time as Robert Fuller, and in Memphis. But yes, it was Robert Fuller as Colonel Robert Parker. So go ahead. That's who that was. But
they had other names, if I remember correctly.
It was Kane. It was Kane and Cole.
Kane and Cole. Oh,
yes, that was it.
Now, but that wasn't the bad part. Do you remember what they were dressed in when they first brought them in?
Oh my God, I'm gonna say,
wasn't it all red? I think.
Nope, that was after they became Harlem Heat and they put them in red with flames.
They're gonna wear those white cotton pants that are in Django Unchained.
Nope, they were in like an old time like chain gang uniform, like the like jean top and jeans with chains wrapped around them, coming to the ring with a guy looking like Colonel Sanders.
Well, the implications are not good. It's still better than it could have been.
I remember that now.
Yeah, if they came out looking like Django Unchained, that would have just been the worst thing ever.
Well, if that movie had been out before that, that's what they might have done. You never know. I mean, it's just like it's like anything else. I mean, there's movies that or shows that wouldn't work on TV today, and there's stuff that's been done in wrestling that people would lose their shit over.
I think it's also context. Like with Django Unchained, we do also know this is a Quentin Tarantino movie. Everything's going to be a little bit exaggerated because this is so. In the context of seeing it in that movie, you'd go, yeah, Jamie Foxx. He becomes the hero, sure. But seeing it in wrestling, where that payoff takes years instead of hours.
Well, it's like I heard Mark Henry on Busted Open one time. And they were talking about the famous DX skit making fun of the nation, how it couldn't be done today. And, and something, of course, brought up was about the blackface they did. And, Mark Henry's like, yeah, that's the one thing about it I do regret. And like, oh, you didn't like it? He goes, man, look, the five of us were in the back about to piss our pants. We were laughing so hard. Those guys were good at what they did. No, we weren't offended. He goes, but it doesn't get as much airplay as it would have today if they hadn't have done it. He goes, and that they were great. We were all friends, man. He goes, I thought I didn't know if Ron was going to be able to go out there. He was laughing so hard, he goes, so no, we weren't offended. We were all friends. He goes, it doesn't hold up today. He goes, the comedy would, but the way they were dressed would not. So it doesn't get shown the way I think it should be.
I think for that kind of stuff, it definitely depends on the network, because you even have like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia that are on FFX, and they can do a lot on that show. They can really let go when it comes to humor, and they had an episode with some themes that were a little mature, and even FFX was like, let's just not. So I think in general people are open to like whatever you got. But a lot of like, if it's for American TV, it's got to go by American TV standards. And that's why a lot of times when people watch Japanese wrestling, you go, how is this allowed? Because it's not on TV. It's not on what's TNN, TBS, whatever AEW's on now.
TNT, TBS.
So
But,
you don't
know,
have to follow those standards of whatever PG-13 or whatever they might. I don't know what they.
Well, I don't really know what the damn standards are anymore because, WWE will, whether it's them or the network, they'll bleep out the F word. The, AEW does not. But for the longest time, I was like, well, shit, you can't say that on network TV, I guess,
You can't remember, you can't do that on television, the show.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. That I was watching, I didn't care much for the original Yellowstone, but I did like the prequels, the 1923 and the 1883. And I'm watching 1883 with Sam Elliott, and that's Paramount. That was used to be TNN. Raw was on there, that network. So was TNA. And one of the scenes was Sam Elliott. Well, I'm sitting there, and it wasn't a full front of the girl, but the blonde girl that played Elsa on there. She half her dress is hanging down. She's got a full boob hanging out. I'm like, wait a minute, ain't just regular TV? And then Sam Elliott's talking to somebody, and it's just the F word just jumped right off his tongue. And wait, what? And then if you watch Paramount at all, every major holiday weekend, Labor Day, Memorial Day, whatever it is, they show a Yellowstone marathon starting on like 12 o'clock on Fridays and running all the way through, the 9, 10 o'clock on Memorial Day, Labor Day, that Monday, whatever it is. And I was like, okay, well, it's later, so I guess things have changed. No, I was one of the episodes that I liked that came back on, was being re-aired on one of those weekends, and I saw that episode, and I remember the episode. Of course, I didn't remember the dialogue, but and then 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, there's Sam Elliott and his F-bombs, and Tim McGraw and Faith Hill coming in with theirs, and I'm just like, all right, I'm confused. I don't know what the hell's going on now. I don't know what the rules are anymore. So I like I said, I know the WWE still, even on Netflix, they bleep out when the crowd's chanting, F you, whoever, but I guess
do remember hearing one thing. I can't remember where I heard it. It was in one of the kind of Attitude Era documentaries, I want to say, when they were talking about how, they could get away with so much back then. And one of the guys like, yeah, because we were sponsored by a pimple cream company. He's like, you can do that when you're, what do they have, like 99220 or whatever, those like call collect phone number companies. He's like, yeah, but when you're sponsored by Skittles, it's different. When you're sponsored by candy that children get, he's like, you can't he's like, you can't
do that on television, basically.
Yeah, because look at how was it Domino's in AEW where they used the pizza cutter and Domino's was furious.
That was the best spot on wrestling TV ever.
Look, I agree.
I don't know if it was coincidence, but if it was planned, it was planned perfectly. And if that was just a coincidence, it happened at the same time, I'm all for it. I think that was greater. That was the greatest timing of anything I've ever seen in my life.
They would have had to know that the pizza cutter was coming in the match. You know what I mean? They would have had to know this was building up. So, but I think that's just the way it is when it comes to if you want to be like a corporate wrestling company, right? Like if you want to be $1 billion company, you have to kind of
be appropriate.
Do what your sponsors want you to do. You can't be the Magic School Bus on CBS dropping F-bombs. You know what I mean? Like,
no, absolutely. I mean, that's maybe why I'm glad I don't work for AEW, because if you put me on commentary, I'd be dropping F-bombs all over the place. I even do it at work, and and even in the classroom, I had to, obviously, I would be like, in class, I remember when I worked retail, I slammed my finger in the drawer. I was getting change out for a customer, and I was like, and the customer said the word for me, and I'm like, thank you for saying it. Thank you. That just made my day. Like, I literally slammed my hand in the drawer, and I mean, and it hurt too. And I was like this, and I wanted to say it, but I couldn't.
Well, it's something that like comedians have talked about forever, and you know what I mean? There's all sorts of shows that have talked about, well, if you're in this time slot and you want to, like WWE wants to, Okay, so this is a thing that I have a sort of problem with WWE. If you want to have a program for kids, sure, no problem. But that same program cannot also be a mature, violent, like, be like Marvel. Make a kid show and make an adult show and have them be different. You as an adult are not gonna let your kid watch The Punisher because you know that's a grown-up show. I know it's Marvel, but I'm sorry, kiddo, but that's grown up. You can watch Spider-Man. So I think WWE might have more success if they kind of split it and said, look, this show's on earlier because it's for families and children. It's PG. There's going to be no swearing. There's going to be lowered amount of violence. They did this before. They had a couple of shows that were like this. And then we'll have another show that's, it doesn't have to be more mature than Raw or whatever. It can be Raw, but just have a show that's like lighthearted Raw. No one's going through tables. No one's getting hit with weapons. It's safe environment, and you can let your kids watch without worrying.
Jason, what was it era? Refresh my memory, but there was the Raw era, maybe, and I don't remember, where Raw was 2 hours, then it went to 3, and it was the third hour from 9 to 10 that was considered the adult hour. What year was that?
Are you talking about when they were doing the that stupid ass Raw Underground?
No. I'm talking about where I want to say, because Raw was always 7, it was like 8 to 10, I think, on Mondays. And it was where they had the last hour of the show. And I think they went to 3 hours, was more of like the adult themed.
That was after that. What started that? They never really named it that. It was that DX press conference after USA had sent a letter to WWE to calm it down with some of the stuff DX was doing.
Maybe that's what. Yeah,
and
maybe
then
that's
DX, and then DX did that press conference thing where where they said between the hours of this and this, we'll only use this. We'll say this. And we won't say we won't say this. And then it was the all this, that, and the other. And it had them bleeping out, and it was a parody to basically say "F you" to USA.
Yeah.
And the executives at USA turned out they loved it and said, "Do what you want to do, man." And that's the only thing with Vince Russo that I've ever agreed with and been like, yeah, he's 100% right. Because people blame Eric Bischoff all the time for killing WCW, and if that's what you do, then you don't know a damn thing. Go look it up. Once the merger happened, he was handcuffed. They brought Vince Russo over, who's writing Crash, Maury Povich TV over here on WWE, and they bring him over and basically tell him not to do what he's good at. Whether you liked it or not, that was his niche. That was his forte.
Right.
You bring him over, you give him a multi-million-dollar deal to do this, and then you're like, yeah, but you can't do that. You can't do that. And I can't really think of anybody other than like maybe Stevie Richards that has anything good to say about Vince Russo. But that much I agree with. It's like you bring the guy over, and then you tell him that he can't do what he was doing over there. Now, granted, yes, he had Vince McMahon as the buffer to go, dude, no, that'll work. But no, these 3 things won't. That'll work, but these next 4 things won't. He didn't have that in WCW, so you never know what might have happened or how far it could have went if they would have let him attempt to do what he was doing in WWF. But, I mean, Dusty Rhodes, we'll go back to 1988, I think, 89, when Dusty left and came and, donned the polka dots in the World Wrestling Federation. When Ted Turner bought WCW, NWA Crockett, and turned it into WCW, and he was the booker, whoever was over his head told him they did not want any more blood and stuff on TBS to stop it. So what Dusty do? The following week was when he had the Road Warriors come out, turn on him, and stick a spike in his eye and have blood running all down his cheek. And they come and's like, yeah, your services are no longer needed in the booking room. And that's when he's like, well, you're not getting my services in the ring either. And he went to the WWF. I mean, it's like a lot of stuff with wrestling. Shit's as old as time. It circles back. TV's the same way. I mean, I wouldn't say it takes a lot to offend me. Nothing offends me. I mean, you know, I mean, you'll stop and see.
Hold on. I got one. Ready? Pineapple on pizza.
Nope, I just pick it off. I'm rolling with it.
I thought I'd get you on that
Absolutely,
one.
Just pick it off and roll with it. I mean, you know, some of the comments, and I'm not going to go into it, but just in recent events that you've seen people make, it shows their character. It shows what a piece of trash they can be. But does it offend me? No. People have the right to free speech. There's, you know, freedom of speech is alive and well, but there is not freedom for consequences. You know, that's, you know, you see people losing their job left and right for show, you know, either trying to get clicks on the internet or showing who they really are. Take your pick. It doesn't really matter. But
and all of this over AJ Lee. It's just, you know, I don't understand it.
I'm gonna tell you what. I've you know, Brock Lesnar. No, I wouldn't mess with Brock Lesnar, but I've seen CM Punk fighting. You know, if AJ Lee was standing in front of me, I think I could take him just to get me 5 minutes with her.
I've seen his stand-up game. I think we could.
No, but I loved her back in the day, man. I mean, just the way her character, like I said, she by far was not. You know, she's not a Charlotte Flair. She's not a Becky Lynch. She's not. You know, name off a few other ones that are, you know, really good in the ring. I mean, Tiffany Stratton, even. I mean, that's not who AJ Lee is. You know, but she's got a character. And
even as a non-fan, I would say this is a weird way to say it, but it's like I would not choose to watch them. But if I had to choose between AJ Lee and Nikki Bella, I personally would choose AJ Lee. You know what I mean? She's way more relevant than Nikki Bella right now.
Well, not only with Nikki Bella, not only that, but with Nikki Bella, you know, I'm not saying they should have been rude about it, but when Nikki said, "Hey, I'd like to make a comeback," now for the Evolution pay-per-view, the Battle Royal, six woman tag, whatever, something like that, where you can protect her flaws, sure, you know, bring her back for something like that.
They are good side by side because one is the good example of a bad period, like a good talent from a bad period, and the other one is the embodiment of the bad period and why it was bad.
Well, yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it. Just I'd have just looked at her, not in a rude manner, but just kind of looked at her and go, "Nikki, we're not in the diva area anymore, honey.
You gotta get something.
You know these." You know, you look great still. You know, you still look like Nikki Bella. You haven't, you know, you haven't done a Sunny and gained 400 pounds, but that you can't keep up with these girls. Even in your prime, you couldn't have kept up with these girls. And now, if you want to go put in the work in at the Performance Center and let us look at you in 6 months and see where your skills are, and that's not your fault. We didn't ask you to do this when you were here. You know, we're not down on you for not being able to do something that we never asked of you, that we never trained you to do. You know, we didn't expect this from you. You know, but since then the divas have, you know, women's evolution, call it what you will, but the women and all around the globe, not just WWE, but everywhere. You know, there's a lot of women's matches that I would much rather see than a men's match. You know, but Nikki Bella, I don't care who she's wrestling, is not one of them. And, you know, I mean, I know she's going through a lot. She went through the divorce. She had the protective order against the guy that she had the kid with. And now she's single and she's bored. And I mean, whether she's broke or whatever, I don't think she's broke, but I mean, I don't know her financial situation. So
it's like, if I was WWE with her coming in, I would promote her as her old character and then have a storyline of like, times have changed. Nikki Bella 15 years ago isn't gonna work, and then have her, you know what I mean, have a story where she kind of loses herself and then she gets a different character and then she kind of works her way back.
Oh, you mean kind of like what they're doing with Bailey right now?
And you can, I was thinking you use her in a role sort of like Jacqueline.
Really interesting with Bailey.
Yeah, we'll see where they go with that. But, you know, I mean, if they would, like, we've talked about this before, you know, with all the talent they have between, you know, now the LFG and bringing those people up to NXT and letting them have matches, and NXT, of course, and now the partnership with TNA where everybody's just thinking they're going to buy TNA, and they might not. I mean, shit, who knows? But, you know, and then the talent they have on the main roster, like I said, you can keep your world title stories for the main roster or for the, your flagship shows. But, you can, now that you've got the secondary titles for the women plus the tag titles, and you've got so many women, and you've got partnerships with Peacock, Netflix, now ESPN on an app. There's somewhere you could put a woman show, and bring Nikki Bella back, let her do the battle roll, whatever, turn her into a commentator, and then you could always do a storyline with her to where the commentator gets the shit smacked out of her by one of the other girls, and she has the match, and whether she wins, loses, or whatever, once that little fiasco's over, she goes and plants her ass back in the commentary desk. That's what AJ Lee did for a while. She was commentating on Wow, Women of Wrestling, the one that Jeannie Buss owned, and that they're still going. But I mean, that's where as AJ Menendez is what she was doing, and so there's a place for Nikki Bella. People remember her, but in the ring with Becky Lynch, sure as hell ain't one of them.
No, it seemed really, to me like Nikki still looks great. I still think she's I still don't understand the her and Cena thing. And I remember when he proposed to her at, what was that, WrestleMania after that match? I think it was Miz and Maurice or something.
Yeah, Miz and Maurice.
Yeah, my friend Rachel texted me and she's like, John Cena proposed. I'm like, oh God. I texted her back, and I was at work. And I texted her back real quickly and I said, this is not going to last. They're going to break up within a year. Sure enough, they did. And I know that she was involved with Dolph Ziggler. I read that she had a relationship with Ziggler. Then I read she just broke up with him and then dated a couple other people before ending up with Cena. And I think, honestly, the interesting thing was she dated Cena. She really wasn't relevant to the landscape. But then when she dated Cena, then all of a sudden she gets the Diva show and she gets this and she gets that. And then she just like shoots to the top. So to me, it looks like she only dated Cena just to further her career.
I mean, that might have been true, might not have been. But, he's actually talked very openly and candidly about why they split. He said, it wasn't nasty the way people thought it was. It was simply, he said, people call him, there's certain people that call him selfish and certain people that look at what he's, knowing what he wants and what he doesn't. But, he said he had been very upfront with her from the get-go that he did not want children, that he didn't, he had too much going on. He wanted to live his own life.
I remember reading that. Yeah.
And he did not want kids. And, he said she seemed to be okay with it. And then as soon as he proposed, she started talking about having kids, and he was like, "Whoa, no, hold on now. We've talked about this." And, he said she kept pushing and pushing, and finally it was like, you know what? This isn't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I remember that. And I think with the match, I think for one, it was just so weird to see her. And she does look great, by the way. But then I felt like it was carefully, like, how would I put it? I don't want to use the word choreographed, but it was carefully created. And I feel like Becky carried her the majority of the match. Like, you could just see a more delicate side of Becky Lynch compared to what you normally see.
Well, that not only that, but she had a couple of matches before that, and every match you could see, her timing was just off. She would, go to do a move and almost drop somebody, or have to do it 2 or 3 times to get them into place where they wanted. But just not to sound like we're disparaging that, but my favorite parts of AEW are the women. I'm going to tell you right now, my favorite part. I love Toni Storm, highly entertaining. But Harley Cameron is just, she's gotten much better in the ring. Now, again, that doesn't mean she's Toni Storm or Becky Lynch or Charlotte Flair or one of those. But not only has she gotten better in the ring, that girl is a trip. She's funny. Really, she's funny. That stuff she did with the puppet and Sasha Banks and Monet, whatever. That puppet with the damn purple hair and her coming up out of nowhere. Oh my God, I was laughing my ass off. And I think between her entertainment skills and then you've got Toni and you've got Athena, in the ring, and, all of them having to deal with Mercedes Moné and still do their own thing. Hats off to the AEW women's locker room.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a good amount of women there too. Now, there's a few that probably shouldn't be there anymore. I like their little triangle of fear with Sky Blue and Julia Hart and Tekla. Love that trio. Megan Bain's starting to grow on me. She's towering the rest of them. So I'm not. That's AEW's Brock Lesnar in my opinion. But then you got Penelope Ford, who's why is she still there? What is she?
Well,
doing?
and then for Tekla, I mean, a thumbtack's got more personality than Tekla. I call her.
I like me some Tekla. That little Bray Wyatt type thing she does from going back up and doing that little crab walk or whatever it is she does.
I'm just like, the bridge. Yeah.
I'm just like, ooh, oh, come here, you crazy bitch.
Well, and I think it's interesting too that DDP called out Tony Khan about Britt, and I want to see Britt back in a ring. I miss Britt.
Well, I'm like you, and this is a equal opportunity to both companies. If you're not going to use somebody and they ask for their release, give it to them.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not going to use them, if you have no plans to use them, give them their damn release.
Look at my other boyfriend, Ricky Starks. I will never refer to him as Ricky Saints. He will always be Ricky Starks to me. Look at him. He wasn't used for how long? And I just happened to go on Twitter. I think I take credit for this. I said something about him I addressed Tony Khan on Twitter, and the next thing you know, here comes my boyfriend popping up at NXT.
I think if companies were actually honest and did that, thousands of wrestlers would be out of work. I think there's a lot of people that have been picked up by each company only under the circumstances of we can't let WWE have Kyle Fletcher. Like, I know they're pushing Kyle Fletcher and they're using him, but I do
like Kyle Fletcher.
I saw him as a new up and comer.
I'm not saying by any stretch fire somebody. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if they come to you and go, I don't like your fucking company. I'm sick of you not putting me on TV. I want my release.
I'm not being used properly.
Yeah. Give it. If they come to you upset and you have nothing for them and they ask to be let go, let them go.
Okay. I have a sarcastic question to ask then. Where's Andrade going to work, huh? If there's no creative.
There you go.
I feel like that's every company with Andrade.
Too. I mean, I like him. He's very proficient in the ring, but at the same token, NXT to the main roster to AEW and back, and he's been used the same way.
I think he's one of those guys where it's like, hey, we want you to do this, I think he's probably one of those hard to work with people. This is, again, I know nothing of the behind the scenes. This is all just my interpretation, but I could see him being harder to work with only on the basis of he's been bumped around in North America. Like in Mexico, he's huge and he's over. But in the States, I should say, it's like they bump him around. They don't know how to use him. It's like Conan in WCW, massively over.
Yeah.
What do we do with him?
But they didn't know what to do with them. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up too, and speaking of being bumped around in roster call-ups, I can't talk call-ups. Rumor has it Tony D is going to get called up to the main roster, and I remember
I thought that too after the whole when they kind of started shedding the mafia gimmick when after him and Stax had their little split up, and then he was in the back and somebody goes, "Hey Don," he's like, "I'm not the Don anymore. Call me Tony," and I said, "Okay, they're about to call him up." So
and I remember you saying that you felt like him getting called up to the main roster wasn't going to work with that mobster gimmick.
That and I feel the same way. Sol Ruka's phenomenal in the ring. Sol Ruka she's got a bright future ahead of her. That surfer gimmick will not get over on the main roster.
Who I am, oh my God, this man just, oh my God. Can we just talk about Josh Briggs for like 2 seconds? The man is God. I swear, he is just so intriguing, and he just comes in and just lays people the F out. I love him.
Well, we don't differ much, but I don't have a whole lot of use for Josh Briggs.
He looks like someone. He looks like substance addiction. That's
I forgot what he did.
He looks like substance addiction. That's
Yeah,
it.
I forgot what he was doing, but he got beat pretty flat, and I'm like, because Jensen, who was with Sean Spears' group there for a little while,
Yeah.
They kicked him out of the group, and we haven't seen him. So, it's like they ain't really done a whole lot with either one of them. I know they've been pushing Briggs a little bit more here lately, is maybe like their new JBL before he became JBL, but so I don't know. All right, look, let's see. All right, we're gonna start with this AEW All Out card, and let's see. We got a 6-man tag match with the Gates of Agony and Ricochet against the Hurt Syndicate. Paul, what do you think?
I think this is the time to pull the trigger on the Gates of Agony. I think they've got a ceiling on them, but putting them with Ricochet bumps them up. I think they were great. I remember watching them in a World Tag League in Japan. I thought they were, for their gimmick, for who they are, I think they're pretty good. So if this gets the Gates of Agony on AEW TV and off of Ring of Honor,
well, they've been on AEW TV since the last pay-per-view when they attacked the Hurt Syndicate and caused them to lose the tag titles.
But I know they've been on Ring of Honor for a long time.
Yeah.
So if this is them pulling the trigger and bringing them up, 2 thumbs up. I think that's great.
Well, to me, and I don't know, it's just a feeling I have with it, because MVP, you've got all 6 competitors in the ring. I feel like you might get a new member to one side or the other to
Seth Alexander, please, Seth Alexander.
I mean, of course, that'd be the obvious choice for the Hurt Syndicate. I don't know what his contract status is with TNA or anybody else, but I don't know who else you could put with Ricochet in the Gates of Agony. But I just, for some odd reason, with all 6 of them being in the ring, it kind of like reminds me of that situation when the Usos could not go. I want to say it was Canada. They couldn't get in. They couldn't go to Canada because of their DUIs or whatever. But they flew. That's when they called Solo up and had Solo come out of the crowd and help Roman retain against whoever the hell he was fighting that night.
They couldn't go to Canada because Paul said they couldn't come to Canada.
I believe that.
Canada's notorious about you not being able to get in for X and Y reasons. So yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said, I just feel like that we might get a new member to one side or the other. I can see it going either way. I would venture to say that trying to put the Gates of Agony over and elevate them, if it's done right, then if you don't want to, like,
I don't think they have to beat Hurt Syndicate in a sense. They just have to be shown consistently on the same kind of power level. Let's say they can still lose, but you got to give them that shine.
Well, I agree, but the reason I say they need to go over, because there's a way to do it to put them over and not hurt Shelton and Bobby, and it's by pinning MVP. Kind of the way the Horsemen used to lose the War Games, because JJ would be the one getting pinned or submitted.
Yeah, you always have the pin taker of the group.
Yep.
I think that's why Anvil was in the Hart Foundation, because he could lose and it wouldn't matter.
And then we got the 4-way for the Women's Championship. Toni Storm, Jamie Hayter, Chris Statlander, and Tekla. Is this going to be the match that Toni Storm finally loses the title? I don't think so, but you never know. But if she does, I will say it would either be Chris or Hayter that take the title, because I don't think they're going to put it on Tekla yet, if they do it all. But that's
I could see it being Jamie out of all of those girls.
Same here.
Well, I tell you, with what they keep doing with Chris Statlander and your boy Wigler Yuta coming out and talking to her and trying to get her to join them, and Moxley talking to her and Marina talking to her, with a 4-way, I can completely see either Tony keeping it or them interfering, maybe sending Danny Garcia out there now because he's now with them, interfere in some, or Marina coming out and interfere in some way, somehow, to put the title on Chris Statlander and have her go with them as well. I can see one of 2 things happening.
Yeah, I think that would make a little bit of sense, actually, because everybody likes Statlander. So to have her turn heel would be
she's been there long enough that I feel like she's owed and she's due. They've given her some good stuff. They've, that, I guess that was her character when she first came in with the Best Friends on the Indies, when she was doing the Alien or whatever the hell it was. But they put her through a lot of stuff. They've given her some good stuff, given her some bad stuff, and Stat's good in the ring, and she's over with the fans. So like I said, if they want to continue this Death Rider stuff, then whatever. What do you think, Danny? What do you think about the women's title?
Logically, I think it's too early to put it on Tekla. Stat, I believe, is there. I love Tony. If anyone takes it, I'm going to say it's probably going to be Jamie Hayter.
The only thing, my thing with Jamie Hayter is it's almost like a Wardlow type situation. Every time she comes back,
Yeah,
it's a start and stop. They re-debut her. She comes back. Oh, Jamie Hayter, former women's champion, is back, and then poof,
she's gone again.
Gone again. And that's the one thing I will say that and again, it's just my opinion on what WWE does well. We've talked about how they do the vignettes or the storytelling between matches. So if you never watch, especially WrestleMania, if you've never watched any, you're only tuning in because it's WrestleMania. By the time the match happens, you know why they're fighting. But like when somebody, like if Roman goes out or who, just pick, it doesn't matter. If somebody's gone for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, they actually write them off TV.
Yeah.
Versus just them disappearing. And then that way when they come back, they have something to come back to. They have, they make that big run in and Paul, we were talking about the tag team stuff that irks your nerves last week. And I think I've told you this, maybe I hadn't, but one of the things that just drives me batshit crazy is a run in. Okay. Somebody coming out and they play their music for them to run in. Drives me crazy, pisses me off to no end. And when AJ Lee was doing her promo Monday and Seth came out and he got in the ring and he's, doing his thing, trying to go around her to get the belt, you hear the crowd start to cheer. And lo and behold, what do you see? Here comes CM Punk just slowly walking up the ramp right behind Becky Lynch. And then she kind of backs into him and, then does her whole, she did some great facial expressions Monday night, by the way. You ought to go check it out if you hadn't seen it. But, so he just kind of looks at her, glares at her, and then walks around her and goes and gets in the ring. Got a tremendous pop when he come walking down the aisle. There was no cult of personality played. He simply walked out. It still works, people.
It really does. Because when you think about it, it's almost like, okay, you've got, a situation, going on in the ring or whatever. You've got that. Then you get the run in and then you get the music and then everyone's like, oh my God. And it takes the focus off of what's happening in the ring and it goes to the person doing the run in. When you could just have them run in through the crowd, run in, down the arena stairs, like what they used to do on Raw, like when Mach was feuding with DDP. They showed him up in the stands. Do it that way. It's going to be a surprise. You play the music, then everyone's watching. Oh my God, that person's here. And it puts the focus onto them.
Yeah. And see, I don't, if somebody's in the ring simply cutting a promo, talking about somebody or whatever, or running down somebody and you want to play somebody's music so they come out and interrupt them, fine. Perfect with that. But, when you got somebody getting their ass whipped in the ring and, where it's about to be a 2-on-1 situation, it's like, and again, it goes back to, suspension of, suspending disbelief. There's just let me be in the moment for a minute, because if Paul's in the ring and, Connor and Amber are about to beat him up 2-on-1, and
I'm jumping in with a chair for Paul, by the way.
Well, but okay, well, we'll use you. I was gonna go with me, but we can go with that. But are you going to stop and go, hey, I'm going out there to help Paul? Well, he's getting his ass kicked right now. It don't matter. Hit my music first, then I'll go. Come on, man. Really? The shit still works. There's certain things that'll still work today that worked years ago. And if you want to suspend people's disbelief just for a little bit, give me a little bit of realism, because there's so much just not there anymore.
I think for that specific example, it depends on what context of what you want people to be doing in the ring. Like, okay, let's say I'm getting my ass kicked and you need me to be in a certain position. So when Danny comes in, something happens. Bing, bang, boom. This all kind of happens. for that, it's better for music not to play, because if music plays, the trope is, okay, music hits, they all go, oh, it's so and so. So they stop beating me up. So depending on context, I can definitely understand. Because if Danny's music hits and they all turn, that gives me a moment to kind of, you know what I mean? I can do something else. But if they need me to take a spot, don't hit the music. So it's, you know what I mean? Like, but I can definitely see how you're always hitting the music. It doesn't matter. It's always, I think that trope is even worse when they come from the crowd. Because at least there's a logic of whoever's sitting in gorilla position probably has a laptop of all the music. Oh, here comes Seth Rollins tearing through. I'll hit there, Seth Rollins. But how does the Shield do a run-in? Do they walkie-talkie? Okay, now hit our music. So then people look to the stage to then not look at the stage.
They're looking in the stands.
Well,
but then hitting the music doesn't make any sense because the music makes us look at the stage.
And you speak of the Shield. I'm the first one to admit that I never thought Seth Rollins would be the breakout star of that group. Now I know in a lot of people's eyes, Roman is probably the bigger star per se, but I mean Seth is just so good. I mean he really was always good as Tyler Black, but I mean I never thought he would turn into what he's turned into. Not back then, anyway.
I just think it's funny that Mox is the one that's kind of people could argue Mox is the more accredited of the three in different ways, but people don't like his style, so they don't want to give him the credit.
I don't know, like this whole thing. Okay, Death Riders. Okay. Mox comes back. We've got the Death Riders. We've got, the buffoons going back to their backyard to wrestle some more. Because remember, Chicago has alleys, Cucamonga has backyards and bad wrestling. So, they leave. They're like, well, we're working for home, which was hysterical with the briefcase, but we never found out what was in the briefcase.
It was just a title. Yeah, it was just a title. Paige opened it up when he beat him.
Yeah, and then it was like, then we had this, Death Rider. So, okay, what is he doing? What's the purpose? And then it's like, okay, we're here. Now what? It's still kind of just to me. There's
I'm going to go back and do something you hate again, and let's praise the Young Bucks. This stuff they're doing, man, I'm laughing my ass off. It's great. And they're doing a slow burn. Paul and I were talking about it last week when they did the 8-man, not this week, but 2 weeks ago. And, Hangman was on one side, and Kenny was on that team too. It was Kenny and Hangman on one side with whoever, and then the Bucks on the other side. And then they when Kenny and Hangman were getting beat up, they had fought the other ones back that way. And they're doing a slow burn to put the Elite back together.
Yeah.
And it's time. They've been away from each other long enough. But this stuff these guys again, and not giving them like this past, I think it was this week, where they actually put their government names up on the screen when they came down. Oh man, it was great.
It looked like a school
idea. Yeah, I mean,
yearbook or whatever they called it.
I must say though, because I started watching. I had my long day switch from Thursdays to now Mondays, so I have a very late meeting with a client family. So I got home early enough this week, and we managed to watch everything by Thursday, with the exception of Dynamite. So I was watching it last night. I got about halfway through, and then started watching it again down here once I got to my sister's. And I must say that the segment with the Bucks backstage, something about the Uber Eats or something, they were talking about the money. And one of them was like, well, I'm not going to eat this stuff, something about Uber Eats. And then when they were making jokes, I was kind of smiling at that because that just kind of was, I got to give them small bit of credit, but I still don't like them.
And the interactions they're having with mostly Justin Roberts, but even I can't remember the female's ring announcer's name, but the interactions they're having with Justin Roberts, where the way he changes his voice, and when they show his face, and he's like, "Oh, these two," Okay.
Yeah.
And
Justin Roberts is hilarious. Like
I
when I
mean,
hit
yeah,
that
like, and like
sign,
they get in the ring and they get in the ring and start yelling at him. You're like, what? Who are you? Get out of my face.
when I had that sign last year that said Mute Excalibur's mic, Justin Roberts looked, he was just rolled his eyes and he could not stop. He had to like walk away from me to the other side of the ring because he was laughing so hard and you could just see it. But
Well,
I thought,
speaking of breaking character, Brock Lesnar and R-Truth were back in the ring again together tonight. And if you've never seen that segment with Ron Killings and Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman from years ago, you know, Truth got Brock to start laughing and break character and start laughing. So, but
Brock Lesnar laugh. Wow.
yeah, but you have to go back and find it. But tonight was no different. Truth did not make him break character. Truth was talking about he was out there to defend the honor of his older brother, John Cena, his hero.
Okay.
And Brock was like, "Who are you again?" And he's like, "I'm R-Truth." And he's like, "Didn't you just say you're Cena's brother? How old are you?" I mean, it was kind of funny. And he goes, "Well, my name's Ron Cena." And I was like, "Oh dear God!" And the whole crowd started chanting Ron Cena. And it's the thing with Truth, and I'll get to Brock here in a second, but Ron Killings is so good. It doesn't matter what horse shit you give him.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
he plays it.
He turns it into gold. And then, like, so when Brock finally had enough, and went back and forth with him on the mic, and who knew Brock Lesnar had some personality in him until they brought him back after Heyman was with Roman. But Brock finally had enough and does what Brock does and picked him up and gives him an F5. Well, Brock split his jeans, and Brock got to laughing and bending over in front of the camera, and he's like, "Hey, look, I got blue underwear on." I was like, damn, but that way, not was the catch as catch can segment? No, but it was pretty damn funny. So, I mean, if you're gonna try to do stuff that's comedy, at least make it worth, like, at least make me giggle just a little bit. That's all I ask for. But like I said, Brock's got a little personality in there when he decides to show it, and him bending over in front of that camera talking about his blue underwear because he ripped his jeans was, was kind of the cherry on top after all the stuff with Truth. Because again, because he can take the biggest pile of dog shit and turn it into gold no matter what it is. So
no, he can. He is like when he had little Jimmy, that was gold too.
All right, let's finish these cards real quick. Got off on a tangent here. John Moxley and Darby Allin. I'll be honest with you, I don't care. Don't care for either one of them. Darby's about $105. And Moxley's just Moxley. So coffin match. Coffin match. I'm pretty sure Darby will win it. But Paul, what do you think?
I think this is going to be the match that breaks the internet. I think that out of this whole card is going to be the match that's like, you're going to get all those comments. Oh, it's a bloodbath. Oh, it's not wrestling. We all know what the match is going to be. It's Moxley versus Darby. Like, this ain't going to be a 30-minute classic.
This is not going to be Flair, Steamboat, Hart, Michaels by any stretch of the imagination.
No. So what I'm going to say is, if you guys don't like that style of wrestling, go use that as the piss break match. Don't go online and I don't mean you as in literally you. I just meant
I know what you mean. But let me clarify my stance on it. When I say I don't care about it, it's I don't care who wins. But it's all
the match itself. I understand.
But if you're gonna watch it, like I agree with you, and for me personally, is it would be the car crash that I can't take my eyes off of. Like, hey, the pizza's here. Well, he go have to wait a damn minute. I'm trying to see which one of these fools kill the other one first.
And this is what people have been talking about when they talk about wrestling should be a variety show. So that way you don't get bored of matches. Have all these different genres. That one's going to be the grown-up one. Put the kids to bed for Mox versus Darby. Now, can the kids watch Hurt Syndicate versus Ricochet and Gates Vagny? Yeah, they probably can. That's probably going to be a fairly clean match. But yeah, like, we all know what we're getting, so I just get disappointed.
Right. Can they listen to a promo from Tony Storm, which my God, that is gold. That is just hilarious.
Well, I'm not, I don't think you've been on since the last pay-per-view they had, but when her and Mercedes wrestled each other, and and she had Mercedes in the tombstone position and bit her right in the crotch, and then come out on Dynamite the next time and talking about she appreciated her lips, all 4 of them. And I was like, oh, dear God. Tony,
what pay-per-view was that? Yeah, I haven't been on because my Thursdays have been like 11 and a half hour days.
I don't know if it was All In or the one after that. I can't. Yeah, it was all in because that's where Mercedes, because she had won the Owen Hart Classic, and that's where she got challenges. So it was All In. But speaking of Mercedes, we're going to leave the car crash, and this would be the one that I go take a piss for. At a total combined height of 4'2" and a total combined weight of 78.3 pounds, Mercedes Moné in one of her 500 wigs versus Rio.
Baldy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know that. No, Rio's Kenny's girl. So if EVP can put his finger in it, which he probably has from what I've heard. But
and she's whose girl?
Rio. Kenny. Kenny was the reason she came over. He really apparently helped train her over in Japan. When I
she's one of Mei Sakazaki's girls, I believe. Yeah. So she was when they were looking for Joshi up and comers, all the major coaches of Joshi were like, this one. Okay. This one in 5 years is going to be the one. So Kenny went, okay, I'm going to trust Aja Kong when she says that. So I like Riho. I like the Joshis. They're just different. They're built different, literally.
She's just so damn little for me, man. It's
and I'm fine with that. They look different. They look different than the other women. Plus, you get the other Joshis. I think Amy's. I'm trying to forget her. I'm trying to remember her name now. There's a few of them that are these are really Amy Sakura, I think is the girl. There's probably about 6 Joshis that are this is the future. These girls are the future. But I don't know if it's stardom. I don't know if it's visa issues. I don't know if it's they're not over on American television, because I know they're not necessarily the most loved. We can say that. I know that there's a bit of spicy comments when it comes to the Joshis, so it's hard to kind of tell. I personally love Riho. I think she's so good. I think her body language is so good. The way she can emote. Plus, when you're that small, they can bend you like a pretzel.
Oh yeah, I mean.
Well, see, that's my problem when I look at her and Liv Morgan and Alexa Bliss. That's what I think about, is bending them up like a pretzel, not watching them wrestle. But
I am happy that you associated a Joshi wrestler with non-Joshi wrestlers. I feel like there is a little bit of stereotyping when it comes to that genre, but I definitely know what you mean when you're under 150 in general. But I've seen a lot of Joshi matches that are fantastic. These women are great at the vocal emoting. They can do Boston Crabs and really crank everything. It looks great. Now, does that work after you've just seen a Wardlow match or a Bobby Lashley match? I don't know, because I
mean, it depends on what type of fan you are. If you want to see the big meaty men slapping meat, then probably not. But if you watch the big meaty men slapping meat, but you're more of a, you want to see wrestling moves and you want to see people, hold for hold, then it probably does work for you. Because
and it goes back to the variety show stuff. If you don't like Riho, if you don't like the Joshis, take your piss at that point. Go to the merch stand. Go make some food. Go, you know what I mean? I think this is great. It's looking like a great card.
On a different note with that, I don't know, when it comes to people like Rio, I don't know what her contract stuff is, because I don't know what she's still contracted for in Japan or other places, but they'll bring her in for a couple of weeks and then she disappears. And it's where did she go? I mean, when she first, before she got in the ring and I saw her full on up, I'm like, damn, is that Mina? No, that's too good. No, oh, damn, that's Rio. Damn, I forgot about Rio. I mean, that to me happens a lot on AEW shows, because people will just come back out of the blue of, but Mercedes, for the most part, she can put on a good match. I just don't like her as a person. That's just, I just don't.
I'm wondering when she's going to become 10 belts, Monet.
It's like I have become the person I sort of hated, not in the sense. I think Mercedes gets a lot of undeserved crap, but right now, I just find her bland. I feel like there's a lot of vitriol, and it's as much as I disagree with the vitriol, there's a part of me that goes,
well, it's like when Tony Storm beat her, it was like, oh shit, she actually laid down. Not that I don't think Tony should have kept the belt. I thought that was the right move, but it goes back to where we've talked about before. I don't mind Tony bringing in WWE names that the average fan, if they're flipping through the TV at 8 or 9 o'clock trying to find something to watch, and they go, oh shit, that's Sasha Banks. Oh, let me keep it here for a minute. It'll draw viewers to your TV.
Well, how many people have turned in because of Paige?
Well, yeah, but what I was getting to, we've talked about it before, is you bring those people in, and I'm not saying squash them to, Joe Blow or whoever, but you use them to build up your stars. Yeah. And when she comes in and she has just squashed everyone, beat everybody. There's been a couple of matches where she rolled up people or whatever, but for the most part, she's tapping people out or pinning them flat. And you're not doing your people, the people that's been loyal to you, the people that's been there from day one. Like she beat Chris Statlander like 3 times in a row. And, you look at Chris and you look at her, there is no way in hell she's beaten Chris Statlander once, much less 3 times in a row. I mean, let's get serious. That's my problem with the women's roster in WWE and Nia Jax. I mean, with the exception of 4, maybe 5 of those women, there ain't a damn woman in that locker room that can hold that big bitch down for a 3 count. It ain't happening. And Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, a couple other ones that are a good size, muscle on them. But Alexa Bliss ain't doing it. Liv Morgan's not doing it. They're not holding her big ass down for a 3 count. They're not doing it. They're not gonna make her tap out either. She's gonna laugh at them. Her big Simone ass that she going, are you doing something back there? So that's just, I don't know, my problem with Mercedes. But anyway, continuing on, this next match, I think it'll be a good match, but I think they could have. This is one, if he would have put a story behind to me and held off for about 6 to 9 to 12 months and put both of them on a hell of a roll, having Fletcher run through everybody that came after the TNT title and really putting Hangman over as the world champion. And Fletcher just finally says, you know what? Can't nobody beat me. You can't either. I'm the man around here. It's kind of what he's doing, but he's had the TNT title a month. It's kind of like.
I think that's sort of the point, though, to be honest, is like he could do that, but he's done it way too quickly. And it's like, that's how you get your heel character, is like, none of this is earned, dude. He's definitely a phenomenal wrestler, but
I'm talking about for a huge payoff. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, no, I gotcha.
And it's like it's one of the things that I think WCW really missed the boat on. And if people would go back and watch with Nitro chronologically in order from, and I would say from the time Bill Goldberg started.
And that's the part that we're on right now.
Well, okay, then keep an eye on where I think they missed the boat with Bill Goldberg and Scott Steiner was they should have never let him touch. They should have just had Goldberg do what he did, running through the heels, and then Scott Steiner, when they were that big Papa Pump was, he was headed up. I mean, because it went pretty quickly, and both the big muscle guys and just had them on a collision course, but nothing being said about it. Everybody's kind of whispering, what if Scott Steiner and Goldberg met, who would win? Because they had been so dominant on both sides of the aisle, which they had, but. If they would have built that up and had it collide at a pay-per-view, they could have got two or three good payoffs from that, but it just never materialized. But I think Paige will keep the belt. But again, it's AEW. If Fletcher would have pulled it off because of Don Callis or somebody else, I wouldn't be shocked.
I think we're going to get a definite run-in defeating the Purpose. So then, you know what I mean? It's going to devolve.
Who's going to do the run-in, though?
Oh God, any of them. Probably Lance Archer.
Here's a little carrot for thought. We have seen MJF and Don Callis do business in the past, and MJF, he's going to be there wrestling Mark Briscoe. And if Fletcher loses, he's still got that contract he could cash in depending on what happens and who runs in. So, you never know. I think MJF will beat Mark Briscoe. That's just my opinion. Mark, to me, Mark's kind of like their version of R-Truth. He can be serious. He can be comical. He's going to deliver no matter what you give him.
A loss doesn't do anything to Mark Briscoe.
Nope. Not at all.
Doesn't change who he is. Doesn't change anything about anything. He can take a loss and bumps MJ up. Plus, Mark realistically is on the road to leaving wrestling. I'm sure he'll be around for a while, but he's not winning any main event titles. MJF probably is most likely going to win the world title in a few years.
Well, that's why I said. Well, I mean, he's got the contract, and I don't know if they're. I know they're trying to. No, because Tony said he couldn't do that anymore. Never mind, forget it.
They can't do the Money in the Bank cash in anymore, which I think is a great way to kind of separate the gimmick.
So I mean, MJF will win by hook or by crook to me. But then it looks like this is going to be the main event. This is just the way they've got the card laid out. Now, the world title could be the main event, but the last match they have listed is Edge and Christian versus FTR. And I guess
I have one here. I don't think you said.
What's that?
Okada versus Takeshita versus Masquerada Dorada or the Beast Mortis.
Oh, that's not all. That's not. I'm on the AEW website, and it didn't pull that match up.
Oh, okay. I'm on the Wikipedia, so maybe there's
fair
enough.
Yeah, that match, the Mark Briscoe MJF match isn't on here either, but I just remember that one because Mark's
that one's on here. So maybe there's just
Mark's supposed to name his stipulation this week, so
maybe they haven't added it on the website.
No. What is that match for that you just mentioned? I remember them talking about something.
It is for the unified three-way for the unified championship.
It is for the championship. I thought not the number one contender
for the unified championship. Okada, Takeshita, and Dorada or Mortis.
Well,
I hope it's Dorada. I think Dorada is the better wrestler out of Dorada and Beast Mortis, but Beast Mortis might be a good idea because he's a big, thick lad. And
he's
yeah, I
was gonna say, he's dating old Baldy there, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. But I know Takeshita likes to do some dives, so I think having a big lad as a base to kind of catch the dives is probably the safe.
Well, I think I've said this on here with you before, but Takeshita, for all the shit that I talk here and there, he is my favorite wrestler in AEW.
He's arguably one of the best in the world right now.
Hands down. Well, he has been for a while.
And I don't know if we were saying top 10 or top 20, but he's the winner of the G1. So New Japan views him the same way as we view him, the same way as Tony Khan.
I know everybody's got their different opinions and whatever. And, you got your MJF or your, pick one. I mean, I think they've done, for the most part, I think they've done a good job, whether it was by their design or, contract status of booking the Hurt Syndicate better than WWE did. I think they could have done. I think that's where they missed out on the boat with them and the Bloodline because, of course, Cedric was there, and the Bloodline was on SmackDown, the Hurt Business was on Raw, and they could have let them both run roughshod and then had that ultimate culmination at a Survivor Series match or whatever. But for some odd reason, they disbanded the Hurt Business pretty quickly. But I think they've done a better job with him than done within WWE. But what do you think? I'd love to see. I'm just gonna go with my boy Takeshita. You think Okada's gonna keep it, or what do you think?
I think Okada's gonna keep it. Okada's stereotype has always been he's the man with the belt. In New Japan, like as soon as they called him up, they gave him the world title. He held that thing like Bruno Sammartino did. Like if he didn't have it, he was in a very important story, and then he got it again. So I think they're going to let him build this belt.
Well, there is a reason that I kind of went back to the Hurt Syndicate for a second, because they could take the belt off of Okada the same way they took it off of the Hurt Syndicate without him ever being part of the, part of the decision. Takeshita could very easily beat Beast Mortos or who else did you say? I know he's got
Dorada.
Either one of them. That it'll probably be Beast Mortos. I agree with you on that. But I mean, it's a way to get the belt off Okada without making him look weak.
Taking Okada taking a loss, yeah.
Yep. What do you think, Mary?
Okay, so sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to say Okada mainly because he's booked, I don't know, he's booked with the dominance, yet, excuse me, he's also kind of fallen a little bit, but I still think they're going to end up keeping the belt because Takeshita is good. The other two, I mean, the third guy, that's a tongue twister. But then if they were to give it to the Beast Mortis, it's only because of his relationship with Baldy. And we know that Baldy just kind of gets whatever she wants.
What were you going to say, Paul?
Logistically, so Takeshita wins the G1. The winner of the G1 gets the main event at Wrestle Kingdom, which is January 4th. So logistically, if Takeshita wins the belt, is he going to be able to appease the needs of both companies for the next few months? Because I think he's going to go back to Japan to do a storyline, the tour before January 4th, if that makes sense, right? He'll go back, they'll build up the story. So if he's going back in December, October, November, are they going to have him have the belt for a couple months, then go, then come back? Or are they just going to say, Okada will pin the other person, the mystery person, and then that way Takeshita's doesn't look bad. He can go, he can come back, then we can push him to the moon.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. Yes, I guess I've told you my issue with Okada. It's not Okada's fault. It's more the environment he's in. We see on a nightly basis, watching any show that AEW puts on, of people kicking out of stuff that if it was real would kill somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Okada doing a short arm clothesline. Now, I'm all for the short arm clothesline. That's old school for me. But it's the environment in which it's in, to where, you got somebody getting dropped on a set of steps 5 times and hit with a baseball bat in a chair. And 1, 2, but yet you get hit with a short arm clothesline.
So this is where the difference between American and Japanese style starts. So the reason that Okada can use that as a finisher for so long is because he would hit people so hard with it that legit sweat would come off of them. So it worked because visually he just clobbered the shit out of them. Now, is he going to clobber the shit out of every single person in the AEW roster? Probably not. That's not needed in AEW. In New Japan, he did. Jesus Christ, he took people's heads off with that move.
Uh-huh.
But they built that move up. There would be points where he would still have wrist control, and the ref would be like jumping and pointing to the wrist control. This is a big, big, important thing. But I think Japan lets people get away with simpler finishers, where in the States you kind of need something a bit more, maybe not over the top, but like a big, bam, flamboyant finisher. There's people in New Japan that just their finisher is, no joke, a lariat or a brainbuster.
Well, no, I mean, one of my biggest issues with today's wrestling is every finish has been bastardized. Every single one of them. I mean, I do think AEW is a little worse than WWE is on it. You don't see it so frequently in WWE, but you do see it at the major pay-per-views of, this finish that nobody's kicked out of on any TV show in, 10 years, kicks out of 4 of them at WrestleMania because it's the adrenaline's flowing for the big show. Man, shut the fuck up. I mean, but just seeing the DDT used as just a move in a match, like to me, the arm drag was used when I was a kid. I remember how devastating everybody that the DDT was. When Jake Roberts hit you with that DDT, I mean, he would, he would slither back, he'd slither back to the corner and kind of look at you. And then he would slither over and, 30 seconds later, and you would still be down for the 1, 2, 3. And, it's little simple stuff that I missed, to be quite honest with you.
I think they've done a good job with a couple people, because I want to say the One Winged Angel has only been kicked out of maybe once or twice. The Rainmaker, like the full Rainmaker, he has your wrist, he spins you out, he clobbers you. I think that's only been kicked out of by
the only one that I remember kicking out of it since he's been here has been Kenny when they had their match.
And Kenny, it's Kenny. Like if Brock kicked out of a finisher, you'd go, well, yeah, it's Brock. It's not hurting you by Brock kicking out. You know what I mean? I know Kota Ibushi is one of the only people who's ever kicked out of the One Winged Angel. Like that, I like certain moves like that where you're like, no, I have to protect this. So Okada's been smart because he's got different levels of the Rainmaker. So if he hits you with level 1 and you kick out, that's fine. Because I didn't hit you with level 5, the Rainmaker.
And real quick, I forgot this was on. I just I switched it over because SmackDown went off an hour ago. But When Worlds Collide right now is on for free on YouTube.
What it's like.
Well, I don't know if Xavier Woods is hurt, but they got Grayson Waller teaming with Kofi Kingston against the two clowns, whoever that might be. I can't remember half these names that are on here. Conan was, quoted as saying that the WWE money was changing Lucha Libre and AAA. I'm like, no, you don't say. Well, Ray Charles saw that one coming, buddy.
I think it's a lot deeper than a lot of people recognize. Like, yeah, okay, WWE makes more money. Did you know that the luchadors would fight, not physically, fight over who got to go to Japan? Because when they got paid in Japan, they were paid so much better. But it was only because apparently, I could be wrong on this, the peso is not doing good at all. So when they're in Mexico and they're getting paid, they're not getting paid that much money because the struggling economy. They go to Japan, who has let's say a less struggling economy. They make more money because of the transfer. So if they're making American dollars and then transferring it into pesos, they're probably having time of their life.
Well, he was talking about the product and for the worst. He wasn't talking about the money the boys were making.
Oh, so. Fair enough.
So to finish off AEW All Out coming up next Saturday. Like I said, they have it listed last. I don't know if that'll be the main event, but Edge and Christian against FTR. To me, that's 4 WWE guys. If you want me to be plain and simple about it, depending on if Cope's contract is really up September 25th and he has not signed an extension to finish out this story or whatever, then we kind of know how it's going to go. And how it should go. I know that, and this is not you see whether it's true or not, and I'm sure some of it is, but you've read what a quote unquote mark Tony Khan is for some of the older guys and some of the big stars. So with that being, I forgot who was talking about it. They were talking about when CM Punk was coming out one time on one of the shows, one of the pay-per-views, when the crowd was chanting his name, that Tony legit got up from the gorilla position that he was sitting in and was, acting like a fan going, CM Punk. I'm like, oh, dear God. Can you imagine Vince McMahon doing that back in the day for any of his talent? But, some people like it, some people don't. That's part of his charm to a lot of his talent.
Vince did it for Sean, to be honest.
You might have. But, anyway, like I said, I can even if it was Cope's final night here or final hoorah, if this contract stuff is true, it's Tony Khan, so I can completely still see Edge and Christian winning. But if it's his last night, the way it should go is FTR needs to put him out. And I don't know what Christian's contract status is with AEW. That hadn't really been discussed, but and then he can do whatever. I mean, he can find a new partner. He can, bring somebody else in. Maybe he brings Wardlow back as his partner. I mean, who the hell knows? But I mean, I guess to me, it's going to depend on the actual contract status of Adam Copeland on what happens. If Adam Copeland's still there, yeah, I know he got injured. So if Tony Khan added the injury time from the broke leg with the cage match with Aleister Black, then, then there's more time on it. And, this is a big, they teamed at the last pay-per-view against Luchasaurus and Kip Sabian, but this is a legit tag team match. This is a legit high stakes tag team match. I love FTR is not great on the microphone. I think they need a manager. They're a full throwback tag team. They're phenomenal in the ring. until they open their
I want
mouth.
to say they've had like 6 different managers and nothing. Tully Blanchard maybe was one. I don't think anything's really stuck.
Yeah, Tully was the only one that I remember before Stokely, because Tully was with the, he was with the Pinnacle there. When they all
Yeah,
first
he was.
joined
That was
forces.
a little bit more back in the day.
But from Tully said that Tully's Tully, and I mean, even though he kind of like Sean changed his life around and found his faith, he's still Tully Blanchard. And Tully was like, yeah, I said what I thought. Nobody wanted to listen, and he goes, so then they sent me down to Ring of Honor with whoever he was with there, and then he was gone.
Were they ever teamed with anyone in WWE? I want to say they had like a Paul Ellering type of manager, but that's been a long time ago, so my memory's all.
I saw them in 2019 in Milwaukee, and I don't remember who they were with. And it was a SmackDown.
Tough one.
Let's see. I'm gonna see what it says. No, the only 2 managers they have had. It says that. No, FTR did not have a manager during their time in WWE's NXT. They were then known as the Revival, Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder. They later had managers Tully Blanchard and now Stokely Hathaway. That's the only 2 they've ever had.
No, for some reason I feel like they've had more, but maybe that's just my brain going like, this is how it should look.
Well, like I said, I firmly believe they need one. I just think there was somebody better to do it than Stokely Hathaway.
Colonel Parker.
I don't know if he can still. I don't know if old Robert Fuller can still walk to the ring. But I mean, people jump in here like wherever and think I'm bad mouthing AEW because I say Stokely sucked, but he sucked as Malcolm Bivens in NXT. It's not. It's not because he's in AEW. He sucked everywhere he's been.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily that big on.
Don Callis could have done it.
I'm not big on him either. So, all right, let's run through this WrestlePalooza real quick. CM Punk and AJ Lee versus Rollins and Becky Lynch. This one to me, it's AJ's first match back, and with the storyline,
the multi-man.
Well, to me, to continue the story, not set it up, but to continue the story, you got to have Punk and AJ win, because then AJ can then challenge Becky for the title, Intercontinental title, and that gives Punk another reason to say he deserves another world title shot.
Do you think AJ is here for a longer run, or do you think she's just kind of, let's say, a tour or 2?
No, she signed a multi-year deal.
Oh shit! Okay, I didn't know that.
She did. I saw that.
So no, I don't. I mean, they can slow burn this all they want. So yeah, AJ's back for a while, and I told you what with the line about the belt and her sleeping naked, and it was comical to me. But another line that she said was, right at the opening of her promo, well, she goes, I thought I'd accomplished everything I could here. I wanted to go do other things and try new stuff, and she goes, so I retired my Chuck Taylors. I never thought in a million years that I would be back in this ring wrestling in a pair of jean shorts 2 sizes too small. I was like, girl, I understand. I hear you. But yeah, I thought her promo was excellent Monday night. Go back and watch it if you want to. We all have different stuff, and I enjoyed AJ Lee back in the day, and I enjoyed her now too. So then we're getting John Cena and Brock Lesnar. This will be a fight, and I can see it going either way. Cena's retirement tour. You kind of like what you asked with AJ. How long is Brock actually back for? Is he coming in just to lay down for Cena on the retirement tour? I know him and Cena are boys going way back to the OVW days, even though people don't talk about it. But since the 2 future Hall of Famers, and Lesnar is 4-2 against Cena in one-on-one contest. And the last time they met was on a Night of Champions 2014, so it's been 11 years ago.
Is it Cena the one where he just murked him?
Cena won, but it was by disqualification.
Oh, okay.
So
I was curious if that was Suplex City.
Yeah, I believe it was. And if you're one again, it's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like the Moxley Darby match. I mean, it's not going to be as crazy as that. That's not what I mean. But if you want to see a a catch-as-catch-can wrestling match, that's not the match for you. They're just going to beat the shit out of each other. That's what they're going to do. This next one I think will be a very good match. It has the opportunity to steal a show, and that's Stephanie McCool and Io Sky. That has the potential to me to be the best show of the night. And I hope it's for the vacant women's title because Naomi had to give it up. Speaking of Naomi, if you didn't see her promo when she relinquished the title, you should go watch that. She was having fun. I was very happy for her, and she did well with that. But again, Io and Stephanie, Io's had the belt a couple of times. I think Stephanie needs it to. She was very over at NXT. The main roster does like Stephanie McCool. She's not on the level yet that she was with the NXT crowd. So I think they need to elevate her and move on. But I think that has the potential to steal the show. Then you got the Usos versus Braun. And I don't know. To me, to continue the story and where they put Roman Reigns out, because Roman's off filming a movie. You've seen Sammy have some interaction with him. This is the one to me that Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker have to win. And then at some point down the road, they bring in, whether it be Austin Theory or one more member before they disband them and Braun Breaker. From what I've read, the whole plan for this is for Braun Breaker to break away from Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman to go with Braun Breaker when all is said and done with the storyline. But I can, completely see them bringing in one more member, and then you're getting the Vision or the Paul Heyman's crew, whatever you want to call them, going against a reunited bloodline with Roman, Usos, and Sami Zayn. But that's the matches on WrestlePalooza. What do you think about the Usos and Braun there, Paul?
I certainly have an opinion about that match that I am most definitely going to be watching.
Which one?
All of them. I'm being sarcastic because I don't know. The WWE cards are still not scratching that itch for me yet. So I don't know if it's just I'm too much of a sicko or whatever the word they use now, but I don't know. I used to watch the Usos 10 years ago. I feel like I'm okay.
Well, I will say this for the Usos. It took a little while for them to come around, but when they finally started giving them more time to show their personalities and started to build them up, I hated them coming out and doing the island dance with the, I hate pigeonholing people like that. I hate putting them in that, just, oh, look, another islander. I hate when any company does it. And I think they've done well of finally letting the Usos come out and be themselves and, putting the world title on Jay. But again, for me with the Usos, the Breaker and Bronson have to win. If you were a fan of the Steiner brothers, you should watch Braun Breaker. He's a wonderful combination, in my opinion, of his daddy and his uncle.
Yeah, he really is.
He looks like his daddy. I'm sure if he let his hair grow out, he could also grow that curly fro that Rick Steiner had back in the day. Built more like his uncle, and with the agility of his uncle. Scott was always the more agile one, and before the steroids took over, he couldn't really move as well anymore. But Braun Breaker is a future world champion. Again, the match of the night for me is going to be Stephanie and Io. I love Stephanie McCool. Cena and Brock Lesnar is a simple nostalgia match for people that watched them back in the day. And then I love AJ Lee. Like I said, I like the story of where it's going. And to me, that Punk and AJ have to win that match to continue the storyline, because if not, you just, in my opinion, kill it. I mean, it's done flat if Seth and Becky win. Yes, no, maybe.
Agreed. I'm rooting. I'm from Chicago. I'm picking Mr. and Mrs. Chicago to win this one. Usos, though, with what they did to LA Knight, are they supposed to be heel now, or did I miss something?
No, it's I kind of like where they're at with that. They're both fan favorites, but they keep getting in each other's way. And it's like, anytime two like beefy testosterone guys are getting in each other's way, something's got to give. They're going to wind up fighting. Doesn't mean they're evil. It just means they're going to do whatever. Well, All right, we went through those, so let's go through Paul's favorite part of the night. Today in pro wrestling history. To me, this was a black day in pro wrestling history. Because today, Triple H announced that WrestleMania 43 will be held in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, modern history.
Yeah.
The first time ever WrestleMania is not in North America.
Well, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, was sporting his gray beard, and just the one that I just want to get a hold of so bad I can't stand it, which is Liv Morgan. We're all there in attendance for Triple H to announce it. We've all saw this coming since WWE started going over there. As much money as they throw at them, they've been wanting it for a while. So I'm not surprised. It just, and TKO has done come out and said, not Triple H per se, but like the people in charge of TKO, that they're about the money. That's what they're about. Vince, love him or hate him, he knew what got him to where he was, so he was still kind of loyal to the families and trying to keep ticket prices, where families could afford them. That's not TKO's business model. So I'm not shocked. I'm not going to the one in Vegas, so I damn sure ain't going to Saudi Arabia. So hold on a minute. Oh,
we're boycotting WWE events until tickets prices go down.
Why in the hell is a Wyatt 6 coming out of When Worlds Collide? I don't know. Their music's just starting to play, so it'll take 2 hours for them to come out. Carl Abbs was born on this day in 1851, and I'll be honest with you, I have no idea who the hell that is.
Joey Abbs' father.
That might be his great-great-grandfather. 38 years ago on WWE Superstars, Greg DeGeorge, if you remember him, one of their announcers, welcomed the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and Virgil to the interview platform. And one of his famous skits back in the day, DiBiase had a kid doing 10 push-ups, and when he got to 9, he kicked his arm out from under him. And I don't know if you guys how many of those you keep up with, because I know you're a little bit younger than us, Paul. Not a lot, a little bit. But
the kid who he had to bounce the basketball 10 times.
Yep.
That's the one that got me, because on 9, he just kicked that ball. And it was a legitimate little kid. He's like, what the hell?
That's the one I was actually going to bring up. And the reason I bring that one up was I forgot where he was. It might have been, it might have been 4 or 5 years ago by now, because all this shit kind of runs together. But I saw the story on that, and they showed Ted DiBiase taking a picture with this huge black man. I mean, he looked like he was 6'9", 6'10".
Mm-hmm.
That was the kid he kicked the basketball out from under. And they wrote they wrote the story on it, talking about, that when they did their thing and they went through the crowd talking to people about doing it, kind of like the same way they did with the Rude Awakening, getting the girls to kiss Rick Rude. They came across the boy and his mom, and his mom said, yeah, he can do that. Well, she knew, the kid didn't. She didn't smarten the kid up, as they say. So that his reaction was legitimate. What the hell, man? But so all them years later, fast forward, I don't know if they were at Comic-Con or where they were, but Ted DiBiase was reunited with that young kid who was about a foot taller and huge. I don't know if he's an athlete or something, but it was a pretty cute story and a picture. Picture's worth 1,000 words, as they say. Moondog Lonnie Main was born on this day in 1944. If you remember the Moondogs, there were several of them. And 21 years ago today, WWE presented Unforgiven. And on this show, Chris Jericho defeated Christian in a ladder match to win the vacant Intercontinental Championship. And then Randy Orton, who had beaten Chris Benoit, of all people, for the world title, lost to Triple H, who had Evolution had turned on him. Silo Sam was born on this day in 1952. John Harris, standing at a build 7'7", wrestled played like Big John Studd, later Little John, and was a towering presence in the ring. Yes, he was a huge individual, especially with the picture they have here. He's pictured with the Fantastics, who were about 5'5". Now, this one I remember well. like I'm sitting here looking at this picture and just this one's flashing back memories. 43 years ago today, Sergeant Slaughter and Don Kernodle won the NWA Tag Team title. The Phantom title change occurred in a Japanese tournament final over Shohei Bobby and Antonio Inoki. In reality, they were awarded the belts, which had been vacated when Ole Anderson and Stan Hansen, the former champs, separated. Interesting to note, they would also become the only NWA World Tag Team Champions during this reign, as the Los Angeles office of the NWA would stop using their own NWA tag belt. That's back when wrestling was wrestling. And they feuded with Steamboat and Youngblood, and the matches. And this kind of back when they kept kayfabe going. They had wrestled. They were feuding with Steamboat and Youngblood, and the last match they had, the stipulation was whoever lost could no longer be a tag team. They had to split. Well, of course, Steamboat and Youngblood won the tag titles, and they had to split. Well, a few years later, fast forward, when the Russians are a big group, Crusher Khrushchev came in, and Ivan, he's brought Nikita in. They kept beating up on Don Kernodle, who was a babyface by this time. Well, then you see him standing out there on a Saturday night or Saturday morning, one of their two, whatever shows they were on. And Don Kernodle announces he's brought Sergeant Slaughter back to help him feud with the Russians. Well, Steamboat and Youngblood, Steamboat's in the WWF. Youngblood had passed away. And the Russians brought up, no, he can't help you. You lost a match that said you would never team again. And I'm like, oh, damn, they did. They're actually bringing this up like 3 years later. That was the only time Sergeant Slaughter was on TV for that little segment. It was just like Don Kernodle was like, oh, I can't have Daddy for a part. Oh, and then Sergeant Slaughter went on his way back to the AWA or WWF, wherever he went. God, has it been that long? Jesus. 34 years ago, Chris Von Erich, the youngest of the Von Erich brothers, tragically passed away at the age of 21. God, I can't believe it's been that long. 26 years ago today, WCW presented Fall Brawl. Harlem Heat defeated the West Texas Rednecks, Barry and Kendall Windham, to win their 9th tag title. What was the world title match here?
I love that. That was the Rap is Crap era.
Yes, that was fabulous. Sting defeated Hulk Hogan
to
capture his 6th and final WCW world title. Goldberg defeated DDP. Rick Steiner retained the WCW TV title over Perry Saturn. Lenny Lane, he retained the Cruiserweight title, defeating Taz Hayashi. Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, and Billy Kidman defeated Vampiro and the ICP. I got so drunk with them one night, dear God. Nice guys, for whatever you see on TV, Violet J and Shaggy Two Dope. I'm nice as they can be, but got entirely too drunk with them one night. Road Warrior Animal would have been 65 today. Hard to believe that both Road Warriors are gone. And then 8 years ago, the New Days, Kofi Kingston and Big E defeated the Usos in a street fight to win the SmackDown Tag Team titles. And that is today in pro wrestling history. Danny, are we keeping you up past your bedtime, honey?
No,
I think we are. It's about mine.
Yeah, no, I've just been up since 5 and had to drive to get a cake and then deal with Chicago traffic. We're good, though.
Yeah, I think taking it home might not be the worst idea.
Well, no, that's where I'm headed with. I was going to say, the weather has been, so nice these last few weeks. At night, we've been sleeping with the windows open, which has been great. But my sinuses and allergies, that's why I sent you the little message. I had to get up for a minute. They are suffering badly. And I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I'm nasally as can be. It's like, ugh. So, yeah, the windows might get shut tonight, even though it's only going to be 60 degrees outside. So we shall see. So we got all kinds of stuff to watch. We got something happening on Collision tomorrow night. I forgot what though. That's kind of where my brain's been at. Danny, you remember what's happening on Collision tomorrow?
Not really, because I only watched half of Dynamite.
Well, this week should be interesting because starting with Collision tomorrow, and then of course Raw on Monday, Dynamite on Wednesday, and SmackDown on Friday. We are leading in we're 8 days away from All Out and WrestlePalooza on the same day. So got a lot to check out and discuss, and hopefully we can keep up with it all and be back in on time on Thursdays next week. And anything to tend to share with Danny? Anything last thoughts? I can't even talk.
I've been hearing. Actually, no. Oh, by the way, World's End tickets go on sale this week. World's End will be in Chicago, and we are planning on going. And I'm just hoping that at some point we. One thing I did want to point out is Big Bill calling out Eddie Kingston, which I thought was really interesting because Eddie Kingston supposedly was cleared, then he wasn't cleared. But I just find it that they are having him call him out, yet Eddie Kingston hasn't responded. I think we discussed that last time I was here. But again, that's just kind of interesting. And I'm wondering, are we going to get Eddie Kingston next week, or would they wait till World's End?
I wish that he hadn't actually mentioned his name personally. I wished he would have hinted at it without saying his name, and then maybe on a pay-per-view, whether it's the upcoming one or one where he can actually wrestle, kind of getting in the ring, cutting a promo, and saying his name without saying his name, and then Eddie's music hits into that big ass pop. But that's just me. Paul, anything else before we head out of here tonight? We all look like we need to hit the bed.
Yeah, we've 2.5 hours. I think we've covered most of the stuff this week.
All right, well, until next time, we're gonna finish up. Looks like Danny's already in the bed. Paul's headed that way. I'm gonna finish up watching When Worlds Collide. We'll